Hello, everyone. You might notice things are a little bit different. Rusty is not here, and neither is Felicia. They're in the process of moving house, or just moved house, so there's no actual game today because they're knackered and they need a rest. So it's just me and Erica and Robert. We are going to have some out-of-character chats. We've got some listener viewer questions to answer and discuss. And if there's anything that you want to ask us while we do that, just stick it in the chat and we will answer to the best of our ability. And we're just gonna shoot shit and have fun, hopefully. So as you know, probably you should know after how many episodes? 34.
This is the 33rd episode that we.
Yeah, so
we're
I think
doing.
after 32 episodes, you should know that probably I am Ash. I play Adam Nymerian, the youngest of the Nymerian siblings, and I'm going to kick over to Erica.
Yep. So I'm Erica, and I play Bela, and Bela is a twin, but she's the younger twin, which means that she is not the heir. She's the heir to the heir, just like Michael Scott is the manager and Dwight Schrute is the assistant to the manager. Not the assistant manager, the assistant to the manager. So I am the heir to the heir of House Nymerian, and Bela takes it in a good amount of stride. She'll poke fun with her sister about it, but it's no hard feelings really. She's just kind of like happy to not have that pressure on her for the most part. So it goes pretty well. And
does that make Robert Dwight in this office analogy?
I don't know. Toby, maybe.
I will say nothing on this topic.
Yeah,
okay.
Although I am willing to argue about what's best bear.
Okay, so Robert is also here. He's off camera at the moment, but he is.
Be. The camera's on.
Yeah, I can see you in our call, but I can't see you on the stream, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah, try. It's because on my screen his camera is off. So why don't you turn it off and back on again? You know, the standard IT trick.
Yeah, cycle power to the mainframe.
Alright, anything?
No.
Not yet.
I'll leave the call. I'll just leave.
Okay. All right, so he's gonna be right back. As Discord is being fun today.
Yeah, I mean, it usually takes a few seconds for the stream to catch up. That is really weird. You're not turning up.
And you're here. Cool.
Oh, there you are.
Yay! All right, so Robert's here now, so you can go ahead and do your intro so everyone knows who you are.
Yeah.
Hi. That's what I got. Hey, hi. I'm Robert. Yeah, I play with Garrus. He is the son. He is a knight. He tries to do knightly things, but he is often led astray by the corrupt world we live in. And just
Not only is Luke Harris a very active knightly person, but he's also been knighted and is a sir in the service of our house.
Yeah, and I've survived the battle.
Yeah, circumstances beyond our control.
But normally when he's being knightly, it's with a woman in his chambers.
Yeah, what they say, once a queen forever, but once a knight.
Nightly, morningly, whatever. Despite that, Luke's well's been pretty dry lately, actually. So.
Yeah, I think we're kind of letting the team down. Really, it's our sisters that are getting all the action at the moment.
Well, I apparently only know traumatized women, so.
Oh no!
Ooh.
I don't think Miranda wasn't traumatized.
And direct relatives. Well, Miranda wasn't. You're right. But then again.
I mean, that was quite a while ago now.
That was weeks ago.
Even alive.
I'm sure there's plenty of people I've stabbed who are doing the same thing.
I guess then I'm going to like jump to the like far down on my list of questions then, because it seems kind of appropriate at the moment to ask how late is your character prepared to stay up to get lucky?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, depends on what's going on. You know, I don't see a reason sleep is a requirement.
I just like the song reference was just like too fun to pass up.
Is that just a Robert question, or is that for all of us?
I mean, I think it was like mostly directed at our resident party boy, but I mean, I guess we could all answer it.
The noble party boy. That's a good title.
Yeah, probably the partiest out of all of us. You're the one that's got the reputation for it, anyway.
Luke's just any like 18-year-old who's been turned loose in a city with money and no supervision.
That makes a lot. That makes him make so much sense when you remember. Oh yeah, he's 18 and can basically and like nobility, so he can kind of basically do what he wants.
Well, until very recently, very low on that totem pole, but we're working on that. Mostly through murder, but the murder of the right people.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's in a pitched battle, it's not really murder.
No. No. If it's in a trial by 7, it's not murder.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
like
if it's
murder requires some kind of premeditation and like
dishonor, right?
Rules. Yeah, it needs murder needs to have an element of dishonor to it, I think.
And there are some honorable fights where people can die.
Yeah, I mean you can have like a mercy killing and things like that. Those aren't murder, but yeah, like to murder someone, it needs to be a sort of attack, probably.
Yeah.
So,
kind of like when Reyna sort of half murdered the young Danet, young Lord Danet.
It was only half murder.
Only, yeah, and I love that we're bringing this up. Felicia is not here to defend herself. Yeah.
It's just like it's like an in joke. Yeah.
What were you saying, Erica?
I was saying that it's like an in joke for our family about half murdering people.
Yeah, I think like Reyna's one who's got the half murder kind of locked down pretty well. Because the other half murder at that tourney was Langley Woods, which was not anything to do with us. And
Wait,
yeah,
who did kill Langley Woods? Was it?
it was love that done it.
It was something.
Yeah,
Who hit it with a weapon?
well, my personal theory is that Marita Lucas was poisoning him, so that he would be weaker in the melee and more likely to suffer a fatal injury.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's 100% what happened.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yeah, but I think the rest of us have like just gone to full murder. We didn't take the half murder step. We just went straight to killing someone outright.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if I full murdered anybody. Aside from nameless people in battle.
Yeah, like named people. I'm trying. Did you? No, you chose not to kill Nathan Lucas, so you had it. You could have killed him, didn't?
Could have, but the big dumb oaf wasn't responsible.
No, like it's that thing of like, oh, like I really want to hate you and do you in, but you're actually kind of blameless in this particular, very specific instance.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're all doing now.
Well,
that's a good question.
Because Orton's at the wall.
Orton's at the wall, freezing his balls off. So.
Yeah.
Oh, we should definitely give our buddy Jonathan a heads up about that guy.
Yeah, you know what? We should probably go like just as a kind of consider it a parting gift, like stay away from Orton Lucas. And yeah, Marita did. I think she got sent to the Sept, but I don't know if it was specifically as a a silent sister or if it was just a general being made to become a septa.
Right. Yeah.
And Nathan's just being allowed to go about his business.
He can actually run his house his dumb jock way instead of having his brother involved.
Hey, now let's not be too disparaging of dumb jocks because we have quite a few of those that we like.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't an insult. Well, I guess it sounds like an insult, but it was just a descriptor.
Yeah.
Really.
He is a bit of what we would call over here a bit of a lockheed.
He definitely played football in high school.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And talks about it still today.
Remember that time I blocked that kick? And that's what he just relies on that to get him through life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you talk about the much more interesting shit he did, like Trial by 7.
Oh, yeah.
Get his ass kicked in the Trial by 7.
Yeah, he was doing pretty good actually. I was able to hold him off, but I wasn't really able to get any damage. He broke my fucking shield.
Oh,
Really?
we can replace shields.
Yeah, I mean, the shields are replaceable, and I think if you do like well enough, you can smash a shield, like a large shield, in 3 turns, I think, or something like that. So,
Well, it was good. I threw it back at him, and I was like, here's a replacement for your guys' collection.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
thought that was a good.
It was
sneaker.
good.
I actually think you gave him the kind of the best parting gift of like carving your initial into his flesh.
Hey, my initial's very simple. It could be any letter.
And and it's like you just know like someone's gonna ask about it, and he's tell that story.
Wow. Yeah, I forgot that you carved your initial into him. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think
When you look at the list of things you can choose to do to somebody when they lose, like a battle, that was the least harmful thing I could think of.
Yeah, 'cause I think it was more like a sort of, from how you described it, it was more like a sort of Zorro-esque flourish that he got, rather than you sort of going like,
Yeah, it wasn't like on his chest. Hold him down, Horus.
There were,
I'm gonna have a smiley face to it. I realized without any clarification, it sounds a lot worse.
Yeah. That was a really tense fight, like.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because, I mean, not just that it was to the death, that was one part of it, but also just that any of our side losing was going to count against us, and for some of that meant really bad shit. Because I think Bela and Reyna in particular were answering very specific challenges, so if either of you had fallen, that would have really changed how things turned out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fact that I won my fight and oh shoot, who did Reyna have as your champion? Was it Sir Balin or was it Lord Dondarrion?
Right, who was Reyna was right. Well, you know what? This is a thing I should have asked Rusty about, but I didn't think to.
It's fine.
I remember, because like I can't remember who everyone was fighting.
I'll see if I have it on my notes.
Yeah, because Luke was fighting Nate and Lucas.
Yeah.
I was rolling for Len Corbray, who was fighting Sandra Clegane.
Yeah. And I fought against the Ironwood guy.
Yeah, it was right. Oh,
It wasn't the heir. It was Archibald.
So we had Corbray, I want to say Swan, Will, and Dondarrion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And Dondarrion fought Vannon. Swan fought Walden Rivers. Oris fought Austin Kettleblack. Bela fought Ironwood, which I think we all remember.
Oh fuck yeah, I forgot about that. Oris just fucking.
Oh, and Corbray tanked the Hound. I forgot all about
Yeah,
that.
like
I would like. During that whenever I was rolling, I was like, we were so close. We were basically like I could have had him go one more round, but he could have been taken out by the hound depending on how they were. And I was in like a text conversation with Rusty, going like, I don't want to kill. Like, he's an asshole.
I think, Ironwood died.
Yes, and so did
Will die. Did Corp die? The guy Will was fighting.
Who? Sorry.
Richard Corp.
No, I don't
No.
think he did.
I think there was only
3 deaths.
there were 3. I thought there was only 2
Yeah.
deaths.
Yeah, and Katara has rightly pointed out that Reyna wasn't in the trial by 7 because Beric Dondarrion was being our champion.
Yes.
We chose really well, honestly, because that's ended up being a pretty good friendship we've forged there. But yeah, like, we killed 2 of their guys and they only killed 1 of ours, so, and it was one of the specific challenges.
That's what I was thinking too, which means 3 people died, but I'm only thinking of Will and Ironwood.
No, but there was the Kettleback as well. Forrest.
Oh, did a Kettleback die?
Kettleback, yeah, he died.
That's right.
Forrest basically smashed his skull in with his hammer, which is basically what Oris does. He
got a little bit of revenge for earlier in the week.
Well, don't pick on the guy who's 7 foot tall. That's my advice.
Yeah. Don't pick on the guy who's like bigger than the king.
There's an old bit from The Simpsons where we see the Arnold Schwarzenegger stand in, and he's like doing a movie where he's playing an undercover nerd. So of course he's this 7 foot tall muscular guy, but he's wearing a bow tie, and there's like these kids picking on him. That's what that reminds me of.
It's like the thing that you said like quite early on during the King's Landing tourney. Like you'd said to me, like, they sent one of ours to the Maester, we sent one of theirs to the Seven Sisters. Sorry, not Seven Sisters, to the Silent Sisters.
The Silent Sisters, fuck yeah.
Seven Sisters is some islands.
And I think we could ask. Yeah, we could ask the Ironwoods how that's going.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're down yet another Ironwood.
Yes. So should we talk about how the last episode ended now?
I think it's fair that we do, but we should give anybody who's watching this maybe afterwards or now just a warning that we're going to get into some pretty recent spoilers.
Yeah, last episodes.
Yeah, this is your warning that we are going to talk about stuff that's happened.
Yeah, so we just give it a few seconds and then we'll jump into that. Just so if anybody was like watching stuff out of order or whatever later on, I don't know, just for posterity's sake.
Yeah, of course. You think that's long enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, okay, I'm just going to say I am actually legit proud that I killed Cletus Ironwind.
Yeah, that worked out so well for us.
So, yeah, because...
Oh yeah, get build up to the spoiler, that's excellent.
Yeah, so that day, the day before the battle where we went for the shipment of armor, and Cletus Ironwood was the mysterious hooded figure that was racing away from us, and through the combined efforts of cousin Elia and brother Adam, they were able to kill him completely, and so we dragged his body back to the...
He half died of an arrow to the back, half of fall from horse.
Yes.
There were no Maester to proclaim it, but I will proclaim it.
Damn it, don't you take my full murder away from me.
Yeah. And then after the battle, we got the Vulture King, Jonathor Sand, to he admitted that he was receiving help from House Ironwood, and he wrote it down on paper and signed it. So
yeah, we've got a written confession is extra good.
And because of that,
if we had, I think if we, basically, I think on the strength of having the full written confession,
and the corpse.
Yeah, and the corpse of Cletus Ironwood that
and relatively, I would say, relatively neutral parties like the Lord of Kingsgrave.
Yeah, Lord
On
Manmoody.
top of less neutral parties, but people who aren't just going to say shit like the Red Viper.
Yeah, totally. Like enough people who, particularly the Stormlanders like Beric Dondarrion, of kind of going, yeah, that definitely happened. So that has basically meant that both Prince Doran Martell and King Robert were able to go, yeah, that was definitely shady. Go
fuck them up.
Go fuck them up.
Yeah, because
that they've been stripped of their lands and titles, which we don't
Yeah.
know if they know about that yet. But yeah, they're going to find out soon.
Yeah, so backing up just a moment, like don't forget that this entire army that we put together to fight the Vulture King was by the order of the king himself, which means that aiding against it would be seen as going against the king, especially when House Ironwood was tasked to help our army. So
Yeah, and they sent the rubbish.
can you imagine King Robert hearing this and not like throwing his hammer through a wall or something? Right, like all the times he was angry with us for like the bullshit that was happening around the Wu guy and in our houses and the drama that was unfolding. They're like he was pissed at us, but like some other Dornish house going like directly against his word, and there was like evidence of it, like.
I want to make a comment about Robert's anger and the way Rusty portrayed him is how I think very perfectly it was. He's mad at everybody, but he's also clearly staring at people starting the bullshit. Like,
yeah,
the fucking Lucases are here again. The fucking Danits are here again. Like,
yeah,
I don't care about anything else. I'm fucking pissed off at this shit alone.
Yeah, I mean, there was a conversation that Luke had with Jon Arryn during one of the feasts that I think kind of summed up Robert's moods really well. That there are times where the rebellion is a thing that was in the past and it's not a big deal and he's not bearing any grudges, but he will have moments where that shit is still a big deal and he's still angry with people for it and still definitely does bear a grudge, so he's kind of mercurial, I guess, in that way. And it might be kind of linked to basically how drunk is he.
I would also say, just to kind of touch on the lore a little bit, while the Ironwoods nominally supported Robert,
yeah,
right, like they didn't send armies to his side.
Yeah, and they've had the Ironwoods used to be basically the kings of Dorne, and they've kind of kept that ceremonial title. I think it's Protector of the Blood. I think is
Blood Royal.
Blood Royal. That's it. Yeah. So that title, like they're the ones that have held that for centuries, possibly more. I can't remember. But for that to be handed to someone else, i.e. our grandfather, is a fucking huge big deal because no one else has ever held that title. So Robert
hell, I forgot.
Yeah, I'll say
Warden's the Boneway now, right?
Mm-hmm. But we also got the Blood Royal title, right? And I didn't understand any of the implications of what that meant.
Yeah.
So,
it was
do you know enough to expand on that, Ash?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, like basically before the Targaryens came over from Valyria to conquer Westeros, the people who ruled Dorne were from House Ironwood, so like they were the Blood Royals basically. But then after Westeros was conquered eventually, I mean, and it took several goes for the Dornish to actually conquer. When they eventually joined the Seven Kingdoms, that stayed as a sort of ceremonial title. It didn't really give you any particular powers. It was just a prestige kind of thing. But it's only ever stayed in that one house. It's never got to anyone else. Ironwood pissed anyone to have it taken.
Interesting.
So it's a really big deal that not only that they're having it taken from them because it was theirs in the first place, basically, and they've always had it, but for it to be given to someone else, and rather than being dissolved or returning to the crown, is a really, really big thing. And then the next layer of that, to give it to the enemies of the Ironwoods, who were one, like, supporters of Robert, and two, the ancestral kings of Dorne, is another thing that makes it an even bigger deal. That it's basically, it's probably the most offensive Robert could be to them in his official capacity. Not
Wow.
only to take, like, their functional lands and titles, but also this very prestigious ceremonial title as well, and to go, right, your enemy gets to have that now, and it's a big prestigious thing for us to have it.
Okay, yeah. So I definitely didn't understand that when Rusty mentioned it. How do you think House Martell might feel about that, since they've sort of been the leaders in Dorne for a while, and
Well,
they haven't had that title either.
yeah, you know what? I don't know. I don't think that on a practical level that Prince
Dorne
Doran
cares.
yeah. I don't think Prince Doran actually sees us as any kind of threat, even with that
Oh.
title, because it's purely ceremonial, basically.
I would say, if anything, to him, a ceremonial title's been taken from his enemy and given to a kin.
Yeah, like if I think if any, like it would range from either being a neutral act to being like, this house that's in my favor now has this, so neutral to like a kind of good thing, possibly.
Okay.
And
Right.
if I add something to those who may be more familiar with maybe the Game of Thrones TV show than maybe the setting in general, keep in mind the Ironwoods are to the Martells what the Boltons are to the Starks.
Yeah.
They were ancient kings of their own right, who were always second place in their region, and then eventually with the second house, when they became kind of a more unified kingdom, and then kind of Ash went into some of the details there. So just gotta keep that in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also a kind of a sort of through line of them kind of having kind of shady reputation. Not all of them, but like a lot of them have the kind of shady reputation that, as well, of being kind of underhanded and cruel and so on.
Can I ask a more mechanical question for you guys?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Mechanically, what's next for your character builds? Because I'm realizing I need some more warfare.
Yeah, well, like one of the questions that I had that came up was,
Oh, okay.
It's cool. It's like we can tie this in. That it was particularly for Erica, because Bela was leading that army, of like, what have you learned as a leader from that fight against the Butcher King? Like, and I guess we can fold that into something for us to kind of think about, like, mechanically, do we want to do now that we know that we're about to go into an even a potentially well, not even potentially, it is going to be a bigger fight.
Yeah. So I think there's like two different things to consider that question from. Like, one is like out of character, like mechanically, how did it work? How did like I learn to use the system more to like be more effective? And the other way is like, what did Bela learn from being a leader in battle? And I think mechanically it might be a little tough. I know we were doing this first battle by the book, like whatever the book said is how we were going to do it, and it's brutal, right? Like it doesn't take long until one side is just going to have the upper hand and crush the enemy, and by book time there was only like a 3-minute battle, which is kind of ridiculous.
It was like 3 rounds we did, yeah.
Yeah, and a round's supposed to be 1 minute, so I don't really. So that doesn't make sense. Yeah. There's a lot of like little things that don't make as much sense as you would want from battle, like mass combat battle mechanics.
Well, I think as they try to tie the scalability from single into the mass combat is why you get things like a round of mass combat's a minute, whereas maybe half an hour would be more realistic, or even just 15 minutes would start getting closer to real battle times.
I would think 15 minutes would be a more reasonable estimate.
But they want to be scalable, so they have to be like, okay, well now an unattached hero gets 15 times the 150 actions.
Yeah.
Oh god, I would hate to roll 150 actions one after the other.
Yeah.
Awful.
It would be. So I think from a mechanical point of view, and I like to play a lot of like war games and miniatures games, and cavalry, like point for point, which is like when you're building an army, you have like unit costs or like points, right? And you build to like a certain total. Like if you have a 100-point army, you spend your points until you reach 100 points. And it's not exactly that way here, but units have a point value when you buy them when you're building a house. And when you look at what
cost, right?
I don't know if that's the case, and we haven't really gotten into like house management and such, so maybe there is there, but so far point for point cavalry are just like so much better than anything else that exists on the table. They're so easy to command, like the leadership, the warfare roles to command them are practically automatic for whatever you want to do with them. Their attacks. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say that their attack strength is so high that one attack from them will either outright kill a unit, or like you've gotten so close that like a matter of like keeping an extra die on the roll is enough to obliterate an entire unit in just one attack. Because like you were hearing us dealing like 40 damage in one attack from a unit of cavalry, and that is ridiculous when a unit of infantry might only have like 12 health total.
Yeah.
And that infantry might only be able to really do 10 damage in a good attack. And so like it's
a thing that, oh sorry, go ahead. I was just thinking like a thing that I think maybe, well, aside from the fact that the system desperately needs a second edition that it will never get, but a thing that I think is meant, I think what the game kind of intends you to do is mitigate with fortifications and things like that, but it hasn't really, it seems to assume that you will have those things.
Yeah.
Like for example, having like, you know, if you've got walls or fuck, I can't remember the name of the things to repel, to stop some of the arrows, but those things as well. And we didn't have those, whereas they did. So I think the system kind of makes some assumptions that probably shouldn't. And
it's tough, right? Because you're building a system where you like mass combat's hard, and when you have individual characters trying to interact inside of that mass combat, it gets
how
difficult.
much of a superhero do you want those characters to feel like too?
Right, and so Qatar brings up in chat how Oris went off, and basically for the entire length of the battle fought one entire unit of guerrillas and wiped them out, which is pretty like badass, but it's also not really realistic.
Yeah, because Rusty basically built him to break the system a little bit.
But the fact that the system breaks, well, it's one thing we're talking about with endurance. Because endurance, you double your actual character's survivability, double and triple dips the endurance ability. The endurance is both how much you can resist with an injury, how many injuries you can take, and your total number of hit points.
Yeah.
Going from 3 to 4 endurance is a huge amount of survivability.
Yeah, especially because more than one thing comes off of multiples of your endurance.
Now imagine going up one more to 5 endurance. Now you can take 5 injuries. Each injury blocks 5 damage, and you've got like what is it?
15.
15 hit points instead of 9 or 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's the kind of combination there of like the system having some holes in it when it comes to like scaling between mass combat and single combat, and also just that you can build a character that is that overpowered but still within the rules.
Put 5 in endurance and 5 in fighting and nothing else, and the character will kill anything.
But that is basically alright.
Right, and that's what he was. And as an NPC, it's what he was built for.
Yeah.
But the fact it breaks combat to that degree is a weakness in the system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty. I mean, like from what Rusty said, that
Especially for a system that doesn't. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ash.
yeah, I was just like saying that, like kind of like when, from what I've heard from what Rusty said, that future combats are going to have a lot more house rules to kind of fix some of the stuff that we identified as problems.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't know that we want to get into like a full discussion of game design and such. I just would like to see like infantry be a little bit more hearty and meaningful in combat. Like you need to have a reason to take infantry and just not go, well, we're just going to bring 15 units of cavalry and that's just going to wipe everyone out because they're just that good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say, from a simulationist perspective, armored cavalry should be that good against like peasants and untrained soldiers. But in real life, the way infantrymen dealt with that was they just put their spears together. There is no accounting in the game for, well, if you charge infantry into the spearmen who are ready for it, the infantry, charge cavalry to the spearmen, the cavalry die. That kind of damage I would accept from like a flank on that kind of thing, but because there is no like these are mass spears, you charge your cavalry into it, they die. We just charge right into them. I mean, you just take a couple cavalry units, just plow through 2 rows of infantry like nothing.
Yeah, like if you remember, like early on with our vanguard, I had them trample a unit of infantry that were set against them. That did nothing to help them. Like they got their attack off, and it dealt some damage, but like it didn't end it. And so the cavalry just went right through them, and then trampled the archers right behind them. So
I mean, realistically, spearmen set against a charge just to like increase the combat defense to 25 or some bullshit. It should be stupid high against cavalry.
And that's all stuff that we can.
Finish your war, you just charge horses in the fucking spearmen. All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think we can kind of work on that a bit in the background before the next time we have a mass combat, and so forth.
Yeah. Like, do you get the impression that like we're going straight into like marching on?
So I don't know. It sounded like we were given instructions to go and do that, and
yeah, and certainly if we leave it for any length of time, that gives them time to get dug in, which we don't want.
They're already dug in. They have a castle. We need more men.
Yeah, unfortunately, we may just have to.
I'm sorry. They don't have a castle. They have one of those George R.R. Martin crazy, impossible to actually besiege castles.
There's no such thing.
I think it'll be okay. So if we go there now, like most of our forces are a bit tired from the battle, and that's okay. If we get there and we kind of just set up a siege, you can be sort of restful during the siege, right?
Yeah,
it's not like you're constantly like doing stuff. Sure, we'll have some people build some siege equipment probably, but most people, if they're winded or tired, exhausted, they can kind of relax. And if House Ironwood wants to leave the safety of their castle and come out to fight us, we'll happily take that battle instead of the one inside of their walls.
Not only that, while they're held up, we can be training new troops.
Yeah, and we can. I mean, basically, what the convention would be to sort of like build your encampment outside of trebuchet range, basically, so that they can't hit us. And it means that like when our siege engines are ready, we pull them towards them basically. So like sieges tend to be really slow. So I think we can kind of get it started and wait for like our support to kind of come and join us basically. It's kind of a matter of making sure that Ironwood doesn't get supplies from anywhere else.
Yeah.
I have an idea based on what was said in the chat, and that is we take Cletus's body and we weaken at Burning's him in. I'm still alive! Let us into the castle now!
Right, are you suggesting that Adam takes levels at ventriloquism?
There you go.
Yeah. It's hard to know what to expect, though. Maybe we'll get there and it won't be, like, the siege won't be necessary. And
that would be nice.
I agree, it would be nice. It's just, I don't know if... I don't know if Rusty's ready for the next... I don't know if Rusty's ready for the next mass combat yet. I don't know if we're ready to have another mass combat.
Yeah, he might want us to like go home for a week or something like that, maybe.
Well, I think we may do that anyways, because one, it's kind of on the way, and two, again, I think we need more troops.
Yeah, more troops and like a resupply, that kind of thing. Yeah.
One question I have, I don't honestly expect House Ironwood to have an enormous amount of troops. The army we have right now is pretty darn big.
Ours is pretty good. Like they do have, from what I understand, a pretty decent army. We're not going to be like overwhelmed or anything, but yeah, like.
Well, they'll call it their bannermen.
If they decided to like call in their bannermen and stuff, we would have a hard time. I think probably.
But why wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, Ironwood might, and Lord Anders might just decide to flee, and go on the run or something. I don't know, but
I mean,
it's very,
maybe.
It's very, like, I guess the thing is that like, if he's smart, which isn't a given, he might know that if he tries to like fight us, that even if he defeated us, the next army would be the King's army, which he definitely wouldn't be able to beat.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm like not entirely sure that we're gonna actually get a siege, because how do you get out of this? Yeah.
If I, as a fan of the setting, may remind you, they're Ironwoods, but they're still Dornish. These are the people who told the Targaryens to go fuck themselves when they should have with dragons.
I suppose, or I mean.
Hell, they can melt in the mountains. We've been dealing with Ironwood gorillas for fucking years.
I mean, we've also got to be prepared for the possibility that he might go to like more subtle and underhand things. So we might end up with a war of espionage as well as an actual siege.
Here's an idea. If we're talking about underhanded things, do you think he gets wind of this and sees about having Grandpa killed in retaliation?
Possibly. That was a thing that came up for me today that I was thinking of, going like, because I would
burn that place.
Yeah, because I was going, could we send some saboteurs in to mess with the Ironwoods? And then I kind of went, oh yeah, but I mean they could do the same to us probably.
And they're as good as dead now, as far as they're concerned. They're backed into a corner. We can't assume they'll hold back because of like whatever. Maybe they will, in which case that's good.
Yeah. So the thing is, Anders has nothing to lose at this point, like, right? Like, he's basically done in. It's just a matter of time before he's gonna get what's coming to him. And so he might just think, fuck it, I got nothing to do. These are my rivals, and they just put me in a really shitty spot. Like, sure, it's his own fault, but he's probably gonna blame other people. And so...
he might just go, well, if I'm going down, I'm taking you fuckers with me.
That said, we definitely need intel on what he's doing, what's going on, and we need to know what fucking game Grandfather has been up to all these years.
Yeah, we have no idea.
We need to find out if we're going to fight this war.
Yeah, so, I mean, given that Rusty does like to spring surprises on us, it could be something else entirely.
But I'm not super a big fan of being like, well, Rusty might be tired of the siege rules, so let's assume that won't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I reckon we're probably going to end up with a siege at some point, but I don't think it's going to be just a siege, if you know what I mean.
Well, let's put it this way. What would you guys do if you were suddenly on your own, you and your bannermen, and an army was already amassed and maybe marching your direction?
I mean, that's a good question.
I don't know. Maybe flee, to be honest. Like,
well, yeah, he may, you know.
Because you know what's coming from you. Even if you withstand Nymerian troops and their allies coming to your door, if you knock them around and they don't win, the king's gonna come for you probably, and that's gonna be horrible.
But the king's a heavy-set drunk now. Maybe you don't think he's got the chops anymore.
I mean, he won't come personally, but he will send like actual fighting men.
Oh shit!
Yeah, do you think the Lannisters wouldn't be happy to come and kick the shit out of some Dornish traitor?
Yeah, he'll send Lannisters, he'll send Tyrells, he'll send Tarleys, like ones who have got the actual good armies, basically.
I agree. That's a possibility. That said, Lannisters switched sides before. You know, I could. What I would say is this though.
Lannisters don't have a side other than Lannister.
Like if they're paid for it, and we know that they are paid pretty well by the king through the show.
Yeah,
so then,
and certainly the current Tywin Lannister would certainly. I mean, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want to get out of favor with the king at the moment.
I want to add one thing though, as we're conjecturing here, and that is, the Ironwoods had to know eventually their shit would come to blows.
Yeah.
That means they think maybe they got caught early and their pants are down, but they think they can win a war. Who are their allies?
Oh, right. Now there's a question I don't actually.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why do they think they can win that war? Do they have the Golden Company contracted, or just off the coast or something? I mean, even if they're not ready yet, he had to have some plan for when the shit went down.
Yeah, I mean, probably not. But yeah, theoretically they could hire mercenaries. They are like right on the Sea of Dorne, so they could like basically have one supplies and two soldiers brought across that stretch of water.
Well, I mean, you get anything from a secret alliance of one of the great houses to like idiot, allies in the free cities. But I don't think he's going to be as alone as we are assuming, because he had to have had some sort of plan here.
No, I mean, like, I don't know what specific bannermen they have. I don't think there are any specific canon ones, but his oldest daughter is married to someone from House Illyrian, so we can probably assume they're at least on good terms with them. So that's one house that they could probably call for help. Whether they answer that would be another matter. Another question, I guess. I guess another question about what Lord Ironwood do will kind of depend a bit on how much does he care about what happens to his daughters. Once he knows that, like, his other son is dead. Well, no, wait, hold on. You don't. Hold on, let me just check this tree for a second.
I don't know. It seems reckless to assume his plan was just everything worked.
Yeah. I'm checking.
Maybe.
I
don't know. Maybe he's not all that smart about things. Like.
We don't. I mean, we don't know very much about him. We certainly, because we didn't really interact with him.
Right, like
at King's
Like we can honestly say like this is the worst case scenario for him, right? Like his son got killed and captured, right?
Yeah.
The enemy got captured and confessed all of it, and then the king also took our side with his declaration,
Yeah.
right? Like at any point, any of those could have gone slightly wrong, and it wouldn't have been
not
like
just that, but his machinations in the capital with Lucas is also failed.
yeah, like it would have been bad for them, but not like this bad. And so maybe he just thought, well, this is a gamble I'm going to take. Maybe it won't end up too well for us, but if it goes well, then we have the opportunity to really capitalize on this. And maybe that's was enough of a gamble, and this is the worst case scenario.
I need to correct myself that he did only have the one son, that was Cletus Ironwood, who is now dead. Archibald Ironwood is his nephew who is dead, so like that's so basically
right.
like that he like the male line is very very thin right now. Like does his daughter have a son? Yeah, right. His youngest daughter has two sons, so they're kind of although like with them being Dornish, the oldest daughter is the heir. But his youngest is married to an Illyrian, and they do have a banner house, which is House Drinkwater. So
but Drinkwater now knows about all this though, right? Because of the announcements at the Great Hall. And so we were
knows he was sent up as a sacrifice.
Yeah. So chat, you don't know about this, but we sort of talked a bit about this amongst ourselves. And not to like spoil what might happen in the next episode, but we're sort of all in agreement that we should use this moment to try to turn House Drinkwater into our banner house and basically present them with this and say, hey, look, Ironwood like tried to screw you over, sent you as the sacrificial lamb to this army while they secretly did everything they could to help the Vulture King. Like the king's basically like destroying House Ironwood through like taking away titles and all these things. Like if you right now pledge to us, we will treat you with respect and the dignity that your house deserves. You had no part in this, you didn't know, and that is the story that's all anyone needs to know, and you deserve not to go down with House Ironwood and their underhanded schemes, and we will treat you as fairly as anyone would treat an esteemed banner house.
Yeah, and they're in a very good position to switch just now because they are no longer bound by oath to House Ironwood, because the king and Prince Doran have taken the titles from House Ironwood, so they no longer like belong to them. So while they are still sworn to the prince and king, they can theoretically now swear fealty to another banner lord. I'm just going to check stuff about House Drinkwater.
Yeah, because Qatar brings up a point that he's probably not the lord of the house, so he may not be able to speak on their behalf.
I think he's definitely, his surname is Drinkwater, so he is related.
Yeah, he's a member
of
it.
Of the house. But I'm pretty sure he was just a knight, but I can't remember his first name now.
Garrus, Sir Garrus Drinkwater.
Garrus Drinkwater, yeah. So, Sir Garrus Drinkwater, okay, he's the son of the landed knight who is the head of House Drinkwater. They don't even, right, the Lord of House Drinkwater isn't actually named here, but Sir Garrus is in the line of succession, basically.
Okay. So a direct family member.
So he's a family member of. He is a Drinkwater, just not the actual head of the house.
Okay. Well, then that's one task we can work on, right? I have a feeling we can probably convince Sir Garrus to come along with us in this manner, and then we'll go with him to his house and discuss with the ward of the house. about this. So like that's something we can do during the in between the now and the siege, right?
Definitely. That's the thing we can do basically. Because we're able to send letters, just kind of like normal, basically. So, we can certainly send words to House Drinkwater. It will probably not get there before it. Like, if House Ironwood decides to communicate with them, Ironwood's letter will get there first. But we could still probably get something to them within days.
Yeah.
So, given we just have speculation, I think we discussed a bit. What other questions do we have? Ash, do you feel like we do one?
Yeah, I think what I might go with is like the stuff that was like, I can either just kind of go down the list, or I can the things that were directed to specific people.
Up to you.
Okay, well, okay, yeah, there's a couple that seem kind of fun. Erica, Bela had a surprise proposal recently from the gallant lantern-jawed Sir Balin Swan. Has she decided whether or not she's going to accept?
So Bela is favorable towards this marriage proposal. Of course, there are like the formalities of going and talking to our grandfather about it and making sure that things are kosher there and there aren't like surprise marriage proposals that I don't know about yet.
Yeah, because I mean, like Rusty was quite kind of clear that all of us had 3 potential matches that he had kind of planned out. So
I will say,
one of them.
Having rode the Swan Cavalry, I'd say high quality there.
Yeah.
I was,
yeah.
You know what? Because you took a while to say that, I wasn't sure if you were. So you.
How does Bela agree?
She's been having a good time with Sir Balin. Yeah, out of character. Yeah, I'm kind of curious what the other 2 matches that Rusty has in mind for Bela.
Bela doesn't strike me as the kind of person who's like, a guy's interested. Let's do this now.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe. I mean, that was also one of the other questions.
On the other hand,
was like, what, like, do you have any theories about who's in your list, or is there someone you like to have in the list?
No.
Joffrey?
Definitely not. Too young.
No one in this family is
that's the complaint.
He acted like a complete shit when we were there, which I chalk up to both him being a total ass, but also
I will say
being
this though, he was not at his mother's teat physically, so he had at least one thing over the little
Sweet
lord
Robin.
of the area.
Sweet Robin. Well, we haven't met him. Like, I don't know of him.
I don't think that makes Sweet Robin a
We
bad
saw him.
character.
Their auras was like,
He did not know, man. Yeah, he didn't know where to look. He was very, very frightened. Yeah,
it was like Auras got invited to his first rich people party, and it was the party from Eyes Wide Shut. That's what it must have been like for him.
That poor boy. I feel bad for him, but in moments like that, I'm just going, poor soul. Although, I mean, Lord Arryn took that quite well. He wasn't offended or anything.
I mean, I'm sure he knows his wife's crazy.
Probably.
And he's so happy to spend so much time in King's Landing and not at home.
You know,
the Hand of the
she was
King
a lot
isn't
younger. It was part of an alliance, but he probably realized pretty quickly.
I mean, the Hand of the King isn't really a role that you can commute or work from home. You kind of have to be in King's
But you never see him complain, though. You don't see him complain about it.
Ravens that go back and forth. He's like, are you getting
God,
this
just
Raven?
imagining-
So it's the next Raven.
Like Westerosi Zoom calls would be horrible.
You get a sketch artist who sketches you and then sketches the Raven who takes off.
Oh my
But-
gosh.
Yeah.
But other matches, honestly, I don't know about any other matches for Bela. Like, I'll admit, I'm not very knowledgeable about the setting and any deep cut people. Like, I would consider Bela and Swan to me to be a more deeper cut of character.
Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't
well,
like he
Well, he's
was
not.
played by a well-known actor on the TV show anymore.
So yeah, I only watched the TV show and I watched it as a binge. So I didn't really get time to
Yeah.
get super familiar with the characters and
no.
talk about them a lot. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, Rob Stark. How about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Okay.
Billy Swan isn't even in the show,
I
Or-
that I can recall.
or at least not like in a named speaking role or anything.
You know, just what we know of Rob Stark from the books and the show. I think Bela would like Rob Stark a lot.
yeah,
Probably. And it
that would
seem
be a
like
really
the
cool like
larger-
dark horse type pick, right? Like coming out of nowhere. Like in game, like Bela probably always only like heard of Rob Stark as like, oh yeah, the Starks up there in the far north have some sons, and there's one of them is Rob, and like that's all she probably knows.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Ned's
also
deeds are probably well known. But other than that, like
yeah,
the guy who killed the Sword of the Mornings has a kid or two. Okay.
yeah, I mean, like Adam probably knows a little bit more Starks, but not that much more, because they're far north even by White Harbor standards.
Yes.
Like White Harbor's considered the southern south.
Though some irony that we met one recently and didn't know until still don't know in character.
Are you talking about Jonathan?
Yes. When did you
Yeah.
guys decide, if at all, not to murder him?
Yeah, that was a fun revelation. I'm wondering like how he'll get on as a night watchman. Like, will he do all right? Will he actually sort of?
Well, if he's the
bad guy?
Jon Snow of this story arc, then something tells me he'll be just fine,
Until he's
And we
not,
may-
then it'll be good.
and we may see him again at some point.
Yeah, possibly. Though if we see him again, it means we'll probably also see Orton Lucas again, and then it'll be too soon.
Oh.
We'll have to all resist not punching him in the face.
You think Orton Lucas is gonna survive that long up there?
Especially when we tell
I
John
mean,
Bohr a few things about him.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that Orton might not last very long at the, but I mean, he might like get made a steward and not have to go out very much.
Oh, I mean, the poisoner?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I would tell Jonathan, not a good steward. Find
So
a
what about-
big, hefty guy.
So what about the two of you? Do you have any thoughts on who Rusty may have picked as potential mates?
Yes.
Ooh.
No, none.
No,
And for Ash, for Adam, do you think Rusty's picked out both like traditional like
Weird,
marriage
yeah,
partners,
there we
but like
go.
paramours as well to have on the side, or
you know what, I've got absolutely no idea about that specific thing. Like, I've got an idea of, like, when I think about like what canon characters are around just now that are round about Adam's age, was kind of where I went with like who could potentially be in that list, because the other criteria is one of them is someone that Grandpa Maker approves of. One is someone that Lady Olenna approves of. One's like a wild card kind
The
of
good
thing.
news is, Elena basically knows Adam doesn't like girls, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she knows. Like, I think she saw through him instantly, basically.
Yeah. She saw through everybody instantly, I think.
Yeah, like Adam kind of was like, yeah, right, that's that. She was like, please,
Well, there's
honey.
probably plenty of noble women who make good matches who either for whatever reason, aren't really into men either. So
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Quatara was saying. That you could have a lesbian that he's looking for a similar kind of arrangement.
That's very possible, and it's a thing that Rusty and I did discuss. That I was kind of going like, I don't want some poor like woman to be sort of stuck with Adam and desperately wanting his affection that he can't really give, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of said to him like I would much rather where he ended up being an equitable arrangement that like neither of them were going to be particularly unhappy or anything.
Hey, now we're doubles. Children isn't about lust; it's about doing your duty.
Right, and that's kind of like common though, right? Like there are lots of arrangements where it's more just the political arrangement instead of, and it never develops further
Most
than
of these
that.
marriages are, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like Qatar has just said, I mean, he's fourth in line. It's not imperative that he even has any kids, unless you lot start dying.
I mean, have you seen our lifestyles? We're gonna start dying.
Yeah, I guess. So, like at the moment, he's fairly safe, and I mean, also he's. I mean, my plan is for him to kind of try and demand a sort of amnesty from Grandpa of like a certain amount of time, like in the next so many years, you're not going to get married.
Yeah, I will also say there's no DNA test. There's a lot of ways Adam can cleverly figure solutions to this problem.
This is true, and like Lucaris has already offered to knock up his wife for him. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll keep it in the family.
Which makes it extra handy because I think that Elia Sand might want to be one of the people in Adam's list, who I know that Luke is partial to.
Luke may have some partiality there, yes.
Yeah. And I think that came out of going, we bicker a lot. He's probably put her in the list. Because because she annoys Adam so much. That was like, yeah,
that's half the fun.
Rusty might put that in for, might have her there for fun. I mean, I've got other suspicions, but I consider them much less likely. Because once I learned that Willis Tyrell wasn't in Raina's list, the Tyrells started like at first I thought like they were going to be like, excuse me, quite prominent candidates, but once I knew that Willis wasn't going to be like paired up, like we wasn't going to be on like Raina's list, that went okay, like maybe maybe Lady Olena's decided good enough for her grand. Because I thought like, would she pair up Marjorie with Luke or Adam? Maybe, but maybe not, because she's probably
I'm volunteering.
yeah, I know you are. Because she seems more like that would be trading down for her, possibly.
Well, she's literally trying to make like a kingly match for Marjorie.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So like Marjorie's going to get kind of, she's going to be the sacrificial lamb to Joffrey.
That said, once we throw the Ironwoods out, our
we're on that.
Our stats go up quite a bit.
Yeah. And there's also who am I forgetting? Loris is the other unmarried Tyrell that I was missing out there, who could potentially be on one of the sisters' lists, but I would consider quite unlikely, unless Lady Olenna was kind of looking to find him a nice beard, basically.
And in Dorne, that wouldn't be as big of a deal, right? Okay, so maybe he wouldn't be interested in one of the sisters exactly, but like it would work out okay because he could get his fill and pursue his interests down here, and it wouldn't be looked at weird. Other than the general reputation of, you know, how other people view Dornish folk.
Hey.
And so.
Hey. Luke could end up a king before this is done. You guys just wait.
of course,
So-
like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is like there might like Rusty may have dreamed up non-canon
yeah.
characters as well. It's a distinct possibility, but kind of canon characters, there's a couple of others that I can think of that are kind of not like super high profile, but are like certainly around the right age, of around the right status and eligible. So, like Jane Westerling and things like that, who are kind of potentials, but they're not very fleshed out in the canon narrative, so you can do stuff with them without it being too jarring. But he might just come up with something else entirely. I've got no idea. I can only speculate based on the conversations we had early on about what sort of thing I would like to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
mean, Rusty kind of has to be prepared for the fact that like Adam will avoid getting married as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, I think Rusty will handle it pretty well because you two have talked about it quite a bit, and Rusty's a good dude about that. And there's plenty of ways to make a situation work, even if it's not like, to like our modern society. But there's ways to get situations to work, and I imagine we'll be able to get into one of those, right? And
Yeah.
it'll be okay. Not ideal, but it'll be workable, and I think that's as much as you can hope for, really. In that sense.
Yeah, totally. We can just. I mean, I trust Rusty not to put us in situations that will make us as players unhappy. So even if like we knew our 3 options and hated all of them, he would find something to work with. And actually, speaking of marriages, like, do you have any? Do either of you have kind of thoughts or preferences for who you'd like Lady Danet to marry now that we're kind of in charge of who gets to do that?
Oh gosh, I'd never thought about that. That thought literally just now entered my mind for the first time.
Thought about it a little bit, but we don't. Garrus Drinkwater.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I was proud of it.
I mean, my other like a thought that kind of occurred to me was Sir Adam Bridington, because I mean he's a widower and he never, and I think just like Adam in particular has like a personal closeness with him, and would want to see him be happy.
Yeah. How old is Sir Adam?
A little bit.
Like he's like in his kind of early 40s, something like that.
Okay.
40 years young.
Yeah.
Erica kind of feels a little bit
Rusty
about
describes
that.
him as being kind of Liam Neeson-ish, but I don't know what era that is. That could be
Iris.
That was a long period of time.
We got some good news and some bad news. The good news is there's no good news. Bad news is you're gonna marry this old man.
I mean, like, he's not like old. I mean, he's still like of fighting age. So, and it's not like big age gaps in medieval marriages are unusual. That's
I know.
the norm. The norm is to basically it's basically normal for like teenage women to be marrying men like twice their age or more.
It would consolidate and help us run those lands a little bit better if they were just one banner house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that we should try to eliminate the Danet banner house as like existing. I'd want it to like still be Danet. Just so that we don't feel like we're just sort of erasing their existence, I don't know.
We tear down that statue.
Just kind of because like I feel bad about sort of like the machinations that led to like the shit that went down with their house.
Well, the thing with it being a Dornish house is that anyone who married into the house would have to take that house name, even if they were a man. So it's not, we wouldn't be wiping out House Danet for her to marry someone, because they would have to take her name.
But
So
her and Brighton were basically the same rank.
pretty much.
It,
Well,
Bridington's not the heir
she,
of.
I think she's a little bit higher status than him. But like in a previous Song of Ice and Fire game I was in, I was playing the like an unusual thing, which was like a female heir to a Vale house, and what we kind of did with ours, we couldn't, basically wasn't in a position to secure like marrying, so instead kind of married sideways, but someone who had a less prestigious name, and so then wouldn't mind taking on a slightly better one, which kind of offset not having a great dowry kind of thing. And she was actually getting a lot of suitors with bastard names kind of thrown at her, because like for them that's a step up to go from having a bastard name to having an actual house name.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, we certainly, I don't think any of us would her to marry or even kind of push her, but I don't think there would be terribly much harm in if we someone who we think might be suitable, that she might be amenable to just find a way to introduce them, because I mean she clearly is sort of capable and desiring of forming actual relationships, so I don't think she wants to necessarily be on her own, particularly if she wants the house to continue, she's going to have to marry some.
I think we should, if at all possible, include her in the discussion. I mean, I don't really call her, she's not a real person, but just as we talk about her future character, and not force her to do anything she doesn't want to do.
I'm on. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, definitely involving her in the decision, I think, is really important for kind of keeping that kind of fragile rapport that we have with them.
And ultimately, I guess it's up to grandfather, but Luke did try to suggest to him to not force her anything quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, from what we can tell so far, he's stuck with that. We haven't had a chance to talk to him yet.
Well, he didn't take them leaving as a banner house very well.
No, but I mean, like, they're now back with us, so I guess that's she's back in the fold, and he's redirecting the river, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
right.
He said he would. It had. We don't know if it's been done yet.
Yeah. I
mean,
assume it has.
He said he was going to do it, and there were lots of people in the room, so he kind of has to do it.
Yeah.
We can hold him accountable.
I will say Luke's concern is that he will drag his feet on it because he's still mad at them.
Yeah. Okay. So I say let's move on to another question. Quatar's asked one in the chat. He asks, at the end of the last episode, he thinks that we were given 2 new banner houses in that message from the king. He forgets their names. Who are they before, or did he misunderstand? So yes, there is a misunderstanding. They weren't given to us as banner houses. What actually happened was they were 2 houses that were en route to join our army for that battle, but they were delayed and then did not make it in time for the battle. And they were House Fowler and House Karen. So
we'll have their forces joining us soon.
Yeah, and there's a big thing with them as well, that like usually they're fighting each other. So for them to be teaming up to help us is...
We are house friendship. That's just what we do.
We really are. We're My Little Pony Friendship is Magic house.
We take each other, we're like, hold hands.
Yeah, so the king's directives told us to meet up with those 2 houses and then go to Castle Ironwood and demands Anders come out and face the music, so to speak.
Yeah, I like the wording of the letter. I really like. Send the House of Ironwood daughters to Sunspear and their sons to the grave, which basically means kill Anders and capture Gwyneth and Gwyneth and Aenys and send them to Sunspear as prisoners, basically. And I wonder if that includes Aenys's husband.
Well, depends on what side he's on, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It will depend on whether he supports Lord Anders or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So
On
let's
one
go to our
hand,
big document of questions.
On one hand, the king gave him orders, probably, basically, to not support House Iron. On the other hand, you know, as they say, unhappy wife, unhappy life.
That just, like let's have as few unhappy wives as possible.
I'll tell you what, Bela being unhappy would be a very not good thing for.
You know what they say in our family?
The
Unhappy
husband.
wife gets stabbed.
Well, I mean, yeah, you should be good to your wife or she'll stab you. That
Could you
It's
imagine, like, years from now, Bela is like a house matriarch, and then, like, some new girl marries into the family, and then maybe some dipshit son of Luke's is kind of a dick to her, and Bela's like, oh no, this is what we're gonna do.
It's like,
This
hey,
is a dragon bone poison dagger.
it's like you check the Maester's records, because back when we were younger, the king declared that we have killed people exactly half from the blade and half from poison. It was a declaration from the king, and you know our cousins are the Martells, and you know what those sand snakes do. Don't test me. Do not test me.
like the Rusty kind of doing the impression of Adam threatening someone with a knife, like, I borrowed this from Uncle, I don't even know what's on it.
Who knows what's on it? One stab, anything can happen.
Yeah, because with Uncle Oberyn, everything is poisoned. Probably even his clothes.
That is a filthy but accurate stereotype of that one individual. It's not a stereotype at all.
Yeah, I'm quite glad that I insisted on going down to the dungeons to interrogate that guy myself, because he knew nothing and he was going to get tortured for nothing, and I'm glad I stopped that from happening.
I didn't see the evidence he was going to get tortured. He was just down there with Uncle Oberon having a little talk.
I think Uncle Oberon was going to make sure that he had a bad fall, that kind of thing. And
well, fall is a dangerous season.
Oh dear.
It's no winter, but.
All right, so
Robert, the Red Rose seemed to make an impression on Luke Harris, and has gotten away twice. So if she turns up again, do you think he will immediately apprehend her for justice, or will he try and woo her first?
It's complicated because he feels a kinship with Jonathor. Mainly because he didn't launch his peasants at us, and now he has evidence that they were like not like evil rivals, but like something else.
Yeah.
He probably would let her go.
Really?
just let it go.
Jeez.
I mean, if she's committed new crimes since then, it might be like if she's like murdered 14 like innocent people.
Dude, she's a bandit. Of course she will have committed new crimes.
Are all members of nobility bandits in their own way?
You know what? I'm actually just happy that I'm not the only one who has like an unhealthy crush that I shouldn't have in the game. It's not just me now.
I did say it was a crush. But Luke likes strong women, and most of them are related to him, unfortunately.
Yes. So we asked if you would kill, marry, or fuck, and you went with release, which is interesting.
I guess it depends on how you want to interpret the word release.
Well, I believe that was the question.
Definitely a fuck and then let go.
Okay. Oh no.
But not like a. That sounded weird. I have no good answers.
That's fine. Ash should be back in a moment or two.
I must just. There he is.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Sorry about that, Mike.
No, it's okay. Discord sometimes is fun.
Yeah, he'd probably let her go. his opinion of Jonathan changed a lot when those peasants were told to retreat. Like, that was the deciding factor. And this is after I had convinced myself he wasn't who he ended up being.
Yeah, and hopefully we will be able to mend relations with Lowfields, since they're alive to do so.
But, yeah, I mean, I cannot say he will not make dumb decisions. How about that?
I mean, we all make bad decisions in this game, all of us.
Yeah. So another question on our list is there anything about your character that hasn't been shown yet, and that you hope you'd like to be able to express more?
Been shown. Ooh, that's a good question. I'll go last because I don't have any good right now.
Okay, I'll go first because I chose this. So when I created the character, I wanted someone who is a little bit more underhanded than Reyna. So if Reyna was like the big diplomatic stateswoman of a character for our house, I took the deception skill to be higher than my diplomatic skill. And so I was sort of hoping to not quite be like a schemer, but to be able to kind of maneuver in social circles a little bit more sort of by lying or being not truthful more often. I don't think I've sort of displayed that as much in a lot of the social circumstances, most because so it's kind of awkward. This is one place where I think some of the social rules make it harder to do the deception stuff, and so like mechanically it's been awkward where like I didn't exactly have something to like just a straight up lie about, but so I found it a little bit hard to make use of that side of Bela without basically having my own sort of schemes that I'm running, and I haven't really been good about trying to set that up, and maybe I need to talk with Rusty and find like some way to do that. But like I don't want to like run against our house, and so like finding some scheme that isn't a huge elaborate plot, sort of like the size that like the Wugas had going on, that would basically be like me and the GM and not have the other players be aware of it. So I found it really difficult to kind of utilize that skill in the game so far, and I don't really know the best way to do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, and I think it's cool that you've got that there, and it's a shame that you've not been able to utilize it so much. Because I guess a lot of deceptions are a long game. You can't just kind of do one roll and that's your deception done. You have to be planting seeds of doubt and things, and that can take a while. Though I mean, yeah, I would definitely say chatting with Rusty about it's a good idea, but also, you know, we're about to kind of go into a thing where I'm starting to think of subtle, sneaky, underhanded shit to do, so we might be able to work together on that.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be excluding people. You would we would be able to convince our more honourable siblings that it's totally okay to like go and release rats into the Ironwood food stores or something.
Yeah, I mean, so like it sort of like comes down to like motivations, like what would Bela want to do that she might feel like she needs to kind of be underhanded and lie about her motivations a bit, right? So like it's also that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Well.
No problem with it to hide too much. Just bend what's here and have to react.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think a siege situation I think has got some really good opportunities to maybe lean into that and get to do something a bit different potentially. Because it's not just a matter of like rocking up and chucking stones at them until they give in. I'm sure your deception will come in handy.
Yeah.
Robert, do you want to? Have you got something, or do you want me to?
I have things sort of. So I feel like the only aspect of the character that is not upfront with Lucaris is his sentimentality, his longing for his family, that kind of thing. But I do feel like that's been shown. Felicia's not here, but Raina especially seems to have recognized it. Um, he really does try to do his best to be an honorable knight, those various ideals. But I do think that has been shown. As to like a hidden aspect to his character, I don't think there's really anything that hasn't had a chance to show up, other than maybe just a little bit with what Bela was saying, which is he can be kind of sneaky if they had to be, but so far it hasn't really been the case.
Yeah.
Like if it was a survival situation, like
I think a lot of cases, and I'm not sure how much we'll even go through with this, but so far a lot of this has been we've all really sort of agreed on the direction for our family and the actions that we're taking, and we haven't really had motivations that were slightly different from each other yet. So we haven't really had reason to have any intra-family sort of conflict and disagreements about how we should do something or what's best. And so that's probably also why we haven't really had the chance to use these other things. And perhaps
I guess if he lets the Red Rose go, they might show up.
Maybe, yeah, I can think of a few things for different characters that could happen that could like split opinion within the party. And certainly, I mean, things might change when Raina inherits, possibly as well, because she's not because then she goes from she goes to being the one in charge who's got the final say, and that will slightly change the dynamic.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely change the dynamic. I also think the beginning intro story of going to King's Landing didn't really have a lot of places to kind of like be separate or have separate ideas. It was pretty simple for the most part, just going to the tourney and doing the competitions and that sort of thing. And while King's Landing is known for being backstabby and all that, like we didn't have any other motivation for being there.
Yeah, we it was actually a kind of explicit thing that we had to show a united front and kind of show that we were, our own unit, not to be messed with, kind of thing. Although I mean, yeah, the only thing I can really think of, like for the way I played personally, was that the only kind of divergence I had was making bad personal decisions rather than making bad house decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, if we get back home and we find out things like the, dam is still blocking the water from the dam, you might see Luke step out from the group a little bit more.
Yeah, I think kind of like after winning this battle, I think that's a thing that Adam's going to leverage as well. Of right, I've shown that I can look after myself and I can serve the house, and I've shown that I'm not just a little helpless kid. I want to be treated accordingly, kind of thing. Yeah, and use that to sort of stand up to Grandpa Maker a bit more, rather than just kind of meekly accepting everything he says.
Yeah, I think a motivation for Bela coming up will be once Raina does get the head of the house, that Bela will want to not be at home as sort of like, and this is the sister who's also here. I think she'll want some place, like some castle or holder, something like that, to be her dwelling and not Wyvern's Rest, because she'll see it as her sister's place, and that she'll want somewhere else. And so she might push. We might see her push to get the Castle Ironwood in Nymerian hands, so that she'll have a place of her own to sort of be in.
And I mean, if that was a thing that you were able to swing, I mean, they're not very far apart, so it's not even like it would split the party in any kind of terrible way. Actually, it makes a lot of sense actually because like even though Bela and Rainer are twins, Bela and Luke are the kind of middle children. So in terms of like stereotypical middle child, like really want to like establish themselves as separate from their siblings.
Yeah.
Like I'm my own person. I think maybe even more so for a twin.
Yeah, it'll definitely be that sort of awkward thing, right? Like we're the same age, and she's getting head of the household, and me being at home is just kind of like I'm not the one in charge, but my sister is. But yeah, I'm still living here, and she may not.
Don't worry,
enjoy
Bela. We'll find you a nice
that.
husband.
I was gonna say you could take over Stonehelm. Like, is like one of there is a question that I quite liked about Bela and Rhaena's relationship, where like the kind of like not wanting to just sort of be in Rhaena's shadow and stuff. Like, how has their relationship? How do you see their relationship having developed from childhood? Of like, have they always had like have they had a rivalry? Has it evolved in any way? Do you think?
I think they've had a very unique relationship. The two different bloods that are like in our characters. So I have the blood of the Royne, which is a little bit more fiery and feisty and battly, and Rhaena has blood of the Valyrian, something like that. I forget.
Yeah. Rhaena and Adam both have blood of Valyria, which is the Targaryen kind of the paleness and the purple eyes, and we're the ones with that have got the kind of commanding presence, whereas blood of the Royne's the Dornish one that's the kind of the fierce warriors.
Yeah, and so I think through the childhood, the differences were really in like the dedication to house matters that Rhaena developed, and Bale had a much more strong interest in being outdoors, learning to fight, learning warfare, and sort of skipped out a lot on the sort of house management side of things. And there were plenty of times where they would do things together, such as, like, because Rhaena learned to fight as well, and so they would always like fight, and so Bela would come out ahead most of the time there, and so like that's like the rivalry there. But then when it came to the learning about
how to run a house,
like the quick questions that Grandpa would ask, like how, like, what should you do in this situation, and Rhaena would like know the answer, and Bela would just kind of be like shake her head and be like, I don't know, she knows, and that sort of, so it's kind of like it's like half yin and yang, where like each of them was like good at a certain thing, but it was also like a competition, like, okay, yeah, you won that one, but like just wait till later when our aunt Elia is gonna show us how to shoot, and I bet I can hit that target more than you can, and or on horseback with Sir Bridington, and so
maybe more of a friendly rivalry.
I feel like
it was always that sort of thing.
At least at the young age, where let's go laugh at how bad Luke is at this.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, do you, like, Erica, like, did getting a brother change anything about that dynamic with your sister?
I think
together, so
I think in a lot of ways, Bela saw Luke as like someone she could take under her wing, but also like would keep up with her a little bit more when it came to like the fighting practice and the writing and all of that, when like Rhaena couldn't quite keep up always. Like she'd be there for like a good portion, but just like she didn't quite have the same skill or aptitude, and so
I will add, he looks more like Rhaena though. Yes, the hair and the pale skin and basically the Valyrian blood. But Luke's a pretty good fighter, so.
In a very different way to Bela though. Like she's very focused around her cool spear stuff, whereas like I think you took levels in water dancing, didn't you?
But keep in mind with Bela, well, in Dornit's one thing, but in the general population, it's assumed every man can fight. We become knights, we become lords. Whereas, like, I don't know, maybe Bela could have focused more on, like, I'm the fighty one, whereas with Luke, it's just like, this is a thing we do. We all have to learn how to fight.
Do you think that's maybe why he went to learn, like, an unusual, like, you know, a less common sword fighting style so that he could still be distinct in some way?
Yes, and I figure he learned some of that from Oberyn.
Oh, almost certainly, because I don't think it's a common thing that they teach in King's Landing.
No, he learned to fight with a longsword at King's Landing. He learned to be agile from Oberyn. When he was in Sun Spear.
So I guess like I've also got a kind of question about his time there. Like, what was it like for Luke to be kind of thrown between those two different cultures, like Westerosi and Dornish? And like, did he have kind of culture shock, like when he first went to King's Landing? And did the different succession laws breed any resentment towards the sisters?
That one, yes. Just give you that answer now. It's hard to say. I've thought about it quite a bit because he was at Sunspear for a while too, which obviously is the same culture, but at the same time, it's also like here's a big city, here's the court, and he was pretty young when he wound up in King's Landing. What he got a lot of was you're the oldest son, so you're the heir. So some resentment was built up there, I'm sure. I played it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there is a question about Driftmark that'll come up, I'm sure, in a moment.
Well, Luke wants his own, like, key or castle, right? Like, that's a thing. But he doesn't... That thought is held in his brain separately from, like, oh, shit, if things go bad, he'll inherit Driftmark.
Yeah, that's kind of thing, like, you're, second in line, basically, and the heir to Driftmark is not doing well, really.
He doesn't want to inherit Driftmark, but he wants to inherit something. Like, that, that is definitely a thing.
I guess it's the thing he's most likely to inherit, rather than him actively wanting his cousin to die.
Well, he doesn't want, like... he's also not, like, hoping, like, Rhaena and Bela both die, right? And, I'll get the castle, finally. It's just more of a wanting to be his own person and stand on his own, and how much of that is, like, programming from being in the very, male-centric King's Landing, and how much of that is just him wanting his own shit. It's hard to say.
So you're not going to murder your way to Driftmark?
No. Luke holds his family above almost anything else. He would not kill any of them. Good
lads. That's good to know.
He's definitely book Sandstake, not TV show Sandstake.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
No, he would never harm his family. He would, he wants things the way people generally want stuff. Like, oh, it'd be nice, but not like, I'm gonna kill some motherfuckers.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've all turned out, like, despite the kind of, the stereotype about Dornish people, we've all turned out, like, very kind of honourable and family orientated and all that kind of stuff. We've not been nearly as underhand as our enemies would think we are.
Some of that's our naivete, but yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
We don't turn on each other, generally speaking, and that's been a strength so far.
Yeah, I think so.
Although that could change. I'm being
Yeah.
threatening.
Yeah, we did talk about that a bit before, about certain events happening, and then sort of motivations for characters start to come into conflict a little bit.
Yeah. I think it was actually in a completely different game, well, after a different game that Robert and I were kind of talking about some of Adam's bad decisions and how like some of those might end up getting his family involved to prevent him, well, to save him from himself, so to speak.
Fortunately, no one's called down that spending thousands of gold for Lincoln Bray. That said, part of that is because, again, no criticism after taking the Hound. So,
yeah, I was going to say that, like, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that was an investment.
if he fought like, I don't know, Billy Ironwood or whatever, that'd be an issue.
Billy Ironwood.
Yeah, Billy Ironwood. Yeah, the bad Ironwood, Billy Ironwood.
There is no Billy Ironwood.
No, exactly.
But yeah, like, went toe to toe with the Hound for us. So yeah, that's.
I'm the fucking for the Fossaway green apples. It would have been like, okay, we'll waste some fucking money.
Yeah, but I mean, like, nothing bad has happened, so like no action is needed. So it's fine. I've not even been writing that many letters. So, yeah, moving swiftly on.
No, you know what? No, I take it back. I'm still mad. I'm gonna be mad at Adam
Mad, what for?
because Ash spilled that Luke has a thing for Elia, and I'm gonna remember that.
Remember what? What have I done?
That
What's
you
Adam
said
done?
it. Yeah, Ash did it, not Adam.
Oh, right, okay. The thing is, like, even if she, like, threw herself at him, he would still knock her back. You know, he's not interested.
Oh, he's not concerned as like a romantic rival. Just that you said it out loud.
Oh, right. How dare I voice
Yes.
an unsubstantiated theory? Well, tough. Deal with it.
I don't wanna.
Well, I mean, with any luck, you know, she'll get fed up making fun of Adam and will suddenly realise what a dish Luke is.
I mean, everyone already knows that.
This is true. We've all seen
I
the
would
shirtlessness.
never ask a woman to stop making fun of Adam.
Really? Wow.
Okay. Weird flex, but alright.
It was
Yeah.
pretty weird.
So what's the next question we got, Ash?
Yeah, I mean, like, Adam's quite happy to be wingman for that particular ship because he has got no interest in Elia whatsoever, except maybe like kicking her into a pool. So, there was one that just kind of, because we were being nice about each other for a moment, I thought to pick what
I don't
trait.
know that.
Yeah, you had to go and ruin it. What trait in each of your siblings do you most admire?
I don't want to go first.
Did you say you don't want to go first?
I do not want to go first.
Okay. Fine. Like, I picked it, so I'll give it a go. I think.
Yeah.
I think Adam admires Luke's confidence, because he seems basically unflappable, and Adam is the most flappable person in the game, pretty much. So yeah, I think he kind of wishes he was that confident. I think he admires Bela's competence as a leader. That, you know, like that people follow her and look up to her, and that she, you know, isn't afraid. And I think with Reina, I think he admires her, like her tenacity, like how she knows quite well when is a good time to speak up and take action, and when is a good time to shut up and listen, which is a thing that Adam hasn't learned how to do yet, because he's got no chill whatsoever. So I think that kind of cool-headedness is a thing that he admires in Reina.
Yeah, so I'll go next, and I agree with you. Bela also likes that exact same thing about Reina. And it's probably what we talked about before, where Bela didn't really learn any of that stuff really. So seeing Reina like take care of the sort of housely stuff in a very competent, stately manner gives her like that good like proud feeling of her house and such. About Luke, she admires like the sense of like the duty and his ability to like to follow through with that, and because like she always would like skirt around doing the stuff she was supposed to when she was young. So like the stories of Bale like skipping out on like the history lessons and like the learning and that stuff so she could go out and like do fighting and such. So like that aspect that like she kind of like I couldn't do that, and so so that's something that she admires in Luke, and in Adam, she really likes his earnestness and his sincerity to himself, and how he represents like himself to others, and so sort of is like that's something she really cares about.
Yeah, that's really nice.
I will say, Adam's willingness to wear his emotions on his sleeve is something Luke wishes he could still do. There's an innocence there, and there is an enthusiasm there that he feels he's lost, and he admires that in Adam. In Reina, he admires the way she makes decisions and seems to just like be like, that's it, that's the way it is. It's very grandfatherly. She, at least to him, does not seem racked with doubt whenever she makes a decision. Now I'm sure if you can read her mind, it'd be otherwise, but he doesn't know that. To Bela, he admires her strength and her fighting ability and her aggressiveness. He wishes he could be that aggressive. And he probably doesn't realize that when it comes to like there was probably a realization when he was swimming through the river and Bela couldn't keep up how much he's grown. He doesn't realize that yet. Like that he is still in his mind the smaller, weaker sibling of his big sister.
Yeah, and definitely that's the case. There is definitely some ways that Luke has eclipsed Bela in some manner for fighting or endurance and just athletic ability that she never really was able to gain on her own.
He's a grown man now, but he doesn't quite see that yet. He doesn't realize that. He still sees his big sisters as being the things to look up to, and in a lot of ways they are.
Right. I mean,
the fact that he's a big, strong person is almost separate, but
yeah. I mean, when we were young and fighting together, like I was older and more skilled, but we would fight like all the time in like drills and practice and all of that. And so like that's probably still in your mind because you were gone for a long period of time. And when we came back, you saw me in the joust get pretty darn far, and you saw me in the trial by 7 and melee, and then leading. So like it definitely makes sense that you sort of see her as like up on this pedestal, even though like if we were to actually fight, it would be really close now.
It's one reason he gave her the pendant, and he, supposedly he did pretty good in the joust melee himself, but
yeah, I think it would make sense for you to be impressed, like after kind of having that time apart and going, oh wow, like they got even better.
It's one of those things where if you were to see it in his mind, he'd be looking up at his older sisters. If you were to see like videotape of it, you realize how much taller he is.
Yeah, like his
like,
mental
we're
image of himself is still like of him being a bit younger, right, and looking up at her. Yeah.
I mean, we're all pretty tall. I think they kind of there is there is stuff in I can't remember where it's mentioned in the books anyway, that like the those of Valyrian descent are like weirdly tall, kind of ridiculously so. But then like when they start kind of intermingling with the Andals, the height comes down a bit, so they start to just be like above average.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I always viewed old Valyria like as the magical elfy Rome,
Yeah.
right?
Basically, yes.
In the chat, Felicia's wrote down that Rhaena most admires Adam's open and kind heart, Bela's prowess and showmanship, and Luke's commitment to his beliefs and vows. Which is a really sweet thing to say.
That's so sweet.
I'm just wait for
Thank you.
1 second. I'll be right back.
Okay,
Okay.
sure. Well, then I'll find an Erica question then.
Okay.
There must be one somewhere.
Oh, there's
I think-
probably several. Or some generic ones.
Yeah, like I think there's one that's for you and Robert, and there's one that's just for me. That's like it came from one of my friends who listens to the show rather than watches live.
Okay.
And I think it was meant as a joke, but I thought I promised that I would put it in the list anyway. But yeah, I guess like we can like start with you for this one, that but it is for you and Robert. And I mean, now that Felicia's in the chat, I guess could also contribute if she wanted. But it was that were Bela or Luke close to their parents before they died, because like Adam was too young to actually even know them. So like in your mind, are there any things that you feel that you would have as memories of them, or do you keep any mementos? Like, do you have any kind of headcanon things that you think relate to them?
I'm kind of embarrassed to say that.
No.
Yeah, I'm a little bit embarrassed to say I never really thought about that question when I was building
That's okay.
Bela as a character. Maybe embarrassed was a little too strong a word, but like it's something I probably should have thought about a little bit, and I haven't. I don't, and even now I'm trying to think like how young were we when our parents died?
Well, Rhaena and Bela are 20. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they'd have been like 15.
Oh, okay, so that was not that long ago when they passed.
No, not 15, right?
No, wait, hold on. I might have
5.
Like, yeah, shit, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, 5. Sorry, my mistake. I got things basically flipped around the wrong way.
So probably not too many memories, to be honest. Probably just like maybe some memories of like riding on horseback with Mom, and then probably Dad around the keep, like at meals or whatever, sitting up at like the head table with everyone around at some like name day celebration, something like small as like that, because like when you're that young, memories are kind of weak. So I imagine like those are the things. So maybe she still has like a hair piece, like barrette, that her mom gave her for like putting her hair up when riding a horse, that she holds on to. So something like that. It's like the house symbol on it, and it's just like it's a clip for her hair to like hold it back, that her mom gave her when she was young.
That sounds nice. But yeah, like when you're 5, like remember some things from when I was 5, but they're just little snippets of things, I guess. Yeah, like Luke would have
Yeah.
been like 3, something like
I would
that.
say he probably doesn't remember anything. He barely remembers having any kind of parental figures around other than grandfather and Uncle Oberyn, so
Yeah, that's a thing that like that I think one of the things that kind of slightly rewinding a bit of like stuff that I would like to express more with Adam is like how he relates to Luke in that way of like feeling a bit adrift and like he doesn't have enough kind of connections to the family and to the world, from kind of not ever like knowing his parents. Yeah, like it's a thing that like we've very briefly touched on, I think, but yeah, I think it's definitely affected us all in different ways.
yeah, it's I think I made a comment about Bessa before. Like, it's nice to have a mom.
Yeah, I think that's
Oh,
why we've latched on to Bessa so like wholeheartedly because she's
Yeah.
our mum now.
yeah, Luke has a hard time with any kind of parental figures, mostly because they're so scant, and essentially his memories are of him being sent away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
That
think
would suck.
I think Bela probably latched on a bit to Uncle Oberyn as a parental type figure, especially like with her interests as well. It made sense that that's almost as surely why she picked up that showy, flashy combat style, and
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
and so
I
it
think
just yeah.
yeah. Sorry, sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, it's okay. So yeah, so she picked it up from him, and even though I'm sure they weren't around all the time, um, I think that she kind of transferred a bit of that those positive fatherly um, memories a bit to Uncle Oberyn, and that made a big difference to her.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like for my part, I think Adam kind of mostly sort of found something of those kind of bonds with Sir Adam Bridington. Like not, it wasn't just from Adam's side, I think, because Sir Adam lost 2 sons in the war, um, one of whom was also called Adam. So I think maybe from his side as well a bit. Um, my Adam is kind of a little bit of a kind of, I don't know, maybe like reminds him a bit of his, or maybe at least just having the same name kind of creates that association. So they've got a bit of the bond there, and like Sir Adam taught him to ride, but I think he's also got a kind of bond with Aunt Elia that's a bit on the maternal side because he took to archery really well, so she
Oh
taught
yeah,
him
you're a
really
star
well.
archer too, so
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, like well, that's because Adam wasn't distracted by anything.
it's hard. It's hard being like 11 and wearing the shooter's bow.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly not judging Luke, especially because like Adam's like 15 now and is very distractible, just not in the same way. So I've got absolutely no grounds to criticize. But yeah, like I think like just
Oh no, maybe she gave him a complex. That's why he let the red rose go on purpose. I say, if anybody asks, on purpose.
But yeah, so while those are like probably his kind of the closest things to parental connections that Adam's got, and now I guess also like he's really taken to Bessa in a very kind of similar way, because she is just this very caring person, and he's like, please be my mum.
The best you took us in. You're 18.
Yeah.
I know, but it's
Yeah,
scared.
I think we all love her. She's awesome.
And bring one of
Yeah,
those foods. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I don't care what it is.
yeah, just put it in my mouth, please. But yeah, so there's while those are like good positive connections, I feel like they're not really exactly the same. I think like Adam's quite conscious that he doesn't really feel anything about his parents because he didn't know them, so and feels like he should feel something, and therefore like that. What does that say about him? But of course, like if he was being a kind of sensible person, would be kind of like, well, that's not. It doesn't make you a bad person. That's just is what it is.
All right, you all heard it here. Adam needs a daddy.
Excuse me.
Heard it here first.
You know what? You're not the first person who's said that actually, and and this will be the second time. This will be the second time that I'll hotly deny that Adam is not a daddy.
Wow.
I apologize to anyone who's just now joining us. We were a little while into this, so.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, just the number of people that speculate on this stuff. Yeah, I think because someone, I can't remember who it was now, saw, basically how kind of Adam was sort of my fair ladying Oris and like putting him in nice clothes and telling him how to behave at court and stuff like that. They kind of went, yeah, that's got soft daddy vibes, and I'm like, no, like that's a totally different thing. He just likes dressing people up.
Hey, Ash, that document you shared with the questions, can I add one to it? Is it an open document?
I mean, you could ask it right now if you like.
No, I'm gonna add it to it. It's funny this way.
Okay. If you want, I mean, I won't see it.
Yeah, we won't see it.
Because it's not shared.
Right, it's just a
you can put it in
file.
the comments and I'll
yeah, you can
stick it in the comments, and then I will have a look during the break.
It's going to the comments.
Okay, do we want to take our break now?
Take a break now.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Take a break. And then I will add it to my list that I've got on here, and we'll see if I can read it on air.
Oh, it's not like. Well, we'll see.
All right. Okay, just the look you were giving me was like it was going to be something really terrible. So.
Okay, we will be back in a few minutes to answer a lot more questions and continue this deep dive into all of our characters and the setting. All right, see you in a minute.
We're back.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
We've got a lot of fun chat in the first half, and hopefully the second half is going to be at least as much fun. So
I have a great question here. What's your favorite prime number, Ash?
Oh, 1.
Oh, really? Okay, whatever.
Well, one's not actually prime.
In the words of the great Carl Sagan, the simplest thought, like the concept of number 1, is an elaborate logical underpinning.
But 1 isn't prime.
Is it not? I thought it could only be divided by itself.
Or what?
It's any number that's not 1 that's divisible by 1 in itself.
I did not actually intend to start a real debate on math while I said that.
Yeah.
So I apologize.
Yeah, in the world of mathematics, 1 is not prime.
All right. Okay. 77 because
No, that's not prime. That's not prime.
Right. Hold on.
Oh, we thought we were running
divisible by 7 and 11.
You just fucking own.
And maybe some
This is
others.
your fault, Robert. You did this. So
I didn't say call 77 out of the prime number.
I was just like, what
2,
sounds like a prime
3,
number?
5.
Right, let's see. 2, 3, 4. Oh, 7. I like 7.
There you go.
7.
7's a good number.
Yeah.
Like the 7.
Exactly like the 7.
7.
Which
I don't know.
and that actually, like, there is a question that relates to this, so we can go into that. Of like, what are your characters' religious beliefs, if they have any at all, and also do they believe in magic?
Oh, interesting.
Ooh, that's a good question for the setting.
So I think Bela is like more of she believes in the 7, like all of that, but I think she's a little bit more casual into it.
Hold on. Let me call my high septon friend real quick for you to answer.
As for like So like she doesn't like. It's not like a big part of her life, but she just. I mean, she goes along with it, and she says her prayers when she thinks to do it and such. Um, as far as magic goes, Bela is definitely more of a. She doesn't believe it, but like if she were to see it, she could be convinced that it was real, perhaps. So like she's heard the stories and such, but like it's like far away lands and whatnot, and she doesn't know what to make of it. Like people tell stories, so to her, magic is not really a thing that exists to her because she doesn't see it, doesn't happen around her. So like people just tell stories.
She's more practical.
Mm-hmm.
What about Luke?
The seven are obviously not real. They are aspects of the one god. So.
Who's the one god?
Flaw?
No, that's a pagan god from Essos.
I'll say I'm surprised by that because Luke would have had to swear an oath to the seven to become a knight.
But you're misunderstanding. The seven themselves are merely aspects of the one god. It's a seven-headed godhead. It's not a single entity.
Very heretical.
I mean, it is a single entity. Sorry. And he recognizes that because he would have had the good teachers and shit. And yeah, the world has to exist. Obviously, a god did it, and a god with seven personalities makes a lot more sense than a single god who's like benevolent but also the hurricane or whatever.
I love that. I love that Luke has heretical beliefs. This is brilliant.
They're not heretical though. They're completely down the line. They're just what the commoners don't understand. The seven are seven aspects of a single god.
I really hope that you get into a conversation with a High Septon about that because that's fascinating. And they will not like that one bit.
No, that is the literal religion, though. The seven are not seven individual gods. There are seven aspects of a single god. It was built off the Trinity from Catholicism. I mean, that was the inspiration.
Oh yeah, totally. It's like I know where its kind of thematic basis has come from, but like in world, saying there's only one god would be considered like heretical.
No. In world, the Septons would understand there is only one god who has seven aspects. And it was the seven
who are one kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be heretical here. He's trying to be like the guy who read the shit and knows what it says.
Well, see, the thing is, it's interpretable. That's the whole thing. There's like, I don't think even individual Septons necessarily agree.
In universe, the original belief is there are seven aspects of one god. In practice, they treat them like seven individual gods.
Yeah, they do treat them all, and I would say that, I mean, from my standpoint, treating them as separate entities is functionally the same as thinking of them as that. I guess kind of like like you say, like the kind of the Trinity thing of like, well, God, he's God, and Jesus is also God, and the Holy Ghost is also God.
Like I'm fine with characters being like, "Ooh, that's not true," but like in canon, Luke has it right. There is the seven aspects of one God. He doesn't treat them that way because nobody does. He treats them with their individual deities, but he would know the truth. Well, truth. As for magic. Magic is a real and dangerous thing, however, it's not been observed in a very long time, so it probably no longer exists. Thank you, Felicia. That was my whole point.
Well, right. Here's the thing, because I mean, also when we were speaking with our uncle, whose like first name has completely escaped me, but our uncle in House Valerian, I think it was you and I actually had said to him, if you want us to go and find some magicians, go and do that.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Magic exists out there somewhere.
Yeah, I think Adam kind of believes in it in a similar way of like he's never seen it, but he's like read enough books about it to go, it might actually exist, and is kind of prepared to have his mind, is keeping his mind open for it.
Uncle Montfort.
Montfort, that's it. Yeah. Thank you for getting that. That's appreciated.
I would have looked it up because it was on the tip of my tongue, but I could not remember it. So
yeah, like in terms of the seven, like I mean, like Adam does worship the seven and is probably more pious than the rest of you, but only by a little bit. But for him, it's maybe more of a fear thing. That he kind of fears their wrath and punishment, so will kind of make more effort. Because he's quite conscious of how the faith is not terribly progressive. So yeah, I think his particular kind of way of trying to shield himself from that angle is to kind of try and be a nice pious follower of the seven and try not to think about how it clashes with who he is as a person. But yeah,
I want to add that given his raising as a knight, Luke probably is believes more than most of the family, who seem pretty like on the edge of this shit.
Yeah, I mean, at least none of us are like actively heathens, so that probably helps.
That's actually good to know. I just assumed you worship trees.
No, I mean like that's very like the North keeps the old gods, and I think like.
But House Manderley does follow the seven. That is true.
Yeah, House Manderley's more and has picked up seven. I think if I had
they were a southern family that moved up there at some point under Stark's protection.
Yeah, I think they used to actually be in the Reach. I think something like that. But yeah, they moved pretty far north.
I made a few comments about that. Like, at least he was in a family who follows the seven.
Yeah, but I think like the way Adam would think about like other religions is like he wouldn't actively disrespect them or anything. I think like if he was taken to like a Godswood or something, would like do the proper observations and pay respects and all that sort of stuff, but it's not what he's been raised to believe in, so he doesn't really have a connection with it. He'd probably just think Godswoods are very cool and very interesting, like from a historical and cultural standpoint, and it would be a very intellectual thing for him. He doesn't really feel anything about them.
I guess that's a good question. How do you feel the old gods, right? Like, we got Adam's view. What about Bela?
I don't think she thinks about it too much. I think she's just like this, like the seven is what people worship here, and she just kind of goes with it, and not a very pious way, but just kind of oh yeah, I should thank the father for this, or thank the knight for this battle. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, so she's a little bit more just kind of passive more about it. So when she thinks about the old gods, probably just like, yeah, some people still believe that stuff, I guess, and okay, I don't know if it's true or if they answer prayers anymore, but it doesn't harm me here. And I don't think she thinks down about them. It's just kind of like old-timey. Like, I don't know why they aren't with the new gods, and she doesn't really wonder about it much.
Similarly, he recognizes a thing. He probably doesn't insult or assume that they aren't real in any way. They're not one of the seven, obviously, but there's many mysterious things out there, many powers out there. So they are widely believed in the worth. He may look his nose down on it just out as a cultural thing. But he doesn't really believe oh, these are the real gods, these are the fake gods. Like, we got it good.
Yeah, Bela probably
Me too.
thinks about it as like a cultural thing too. It's like they just like carry on with like these traditions, and maybe it doesn't like have like
And
an actual effect from a god, but maybe it does, and she doesn't really know. But it's like really far away in lands that she's never been to, never been near, and it's just kind of like far
Yeah.
away. So it's just like a
yeah,
cultural.
the Andals brought the Seven to Westeros when they migrated.
Yeah. So what do you think that your characters would make of like stuff like the Lord of Light or the many-faced god or the drowned god? Do you think like they would think anything? Do you think it would be similar to the old gods of like it's a thing but I'm not connected to it, or do you think they would have particular opinions about them specifically?
I would definitely say that it's a thing. It may very well be real, but I don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bela probably take that exact same approach, and
Yeah, I think certainly. Yeah, I feel pretty much the same. Though Adam would want to study them, he'd be very curious about what they believe and what the rituals are and stuff like that. But he wouldn't want unless they did a very compelling. But I don't think he likes the idea of being drowned or becoming no one. So
yeah, I think I'd be surprised to learn that like it's actually like true, and like you can get certain benefits from it, and just because
magic,
like
basically,
she'd never heard of it, and it just like seems bizarre. Like, are you sure like this doesn't? Are you sure you're just not like mistaking this from like one of the seven or something?
Yeah.
Like,
It could just be a magician who knows, magic, who says it's from the Red God or whatever.
Well, I mean, we have met one because we've met Thoros of Myr, who is the Red God.
Unfortunately, we've got a Thoros who cannot bring you back to life, as far as we know.
Yeah, we've certainly not seen him do it.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you did that, I might be converting.
Well, I think also
Well,
like,
fuck. Okay.
I think also we're at a point in the timeline before he does any of that. So, yeah, we haven't. I don't think we've got to the point where he's actually done it.
If I know the character, even Thoros doesn't really buy it.
Yeah, sorry, like Felicia just commenting because Beric is.
He's not got the radio first.
Yeah, Beric is forbidden to die.
And yet he was so close to. I guess the Hound didn't kill him. It was the Mountain. So close to the Hound, I was going to say, but.
Yeah. Speaking of death, if your character died next session, what would you want them to be remembered for? Do you think it differs from what they would actually be remembered for?
Well, that's a hard one.
I think for me it would be the same, because like I'm pretty sure Bela would be like her legacy has sort of been written recently. The trial by seven, the not winning the tourney in King's Landing, but like doing much better than expected. The performance in the melee against King Robert, leading this army against the Vulture Lord. I think those are the things that she would be known for, and she would be very happy to be known for that if she were to die.
Yeah, that's certainly like how I would perceive it. What about you, Robert?
I guess I want him remembered as a brave knight who did his duty and who stood up for those who needed to be stood up for and who fought when it was required to be fought for. And preferably not the time he attacked a camp naked.
He attacked. Sorry.
Not the time he attacked a camp naked.
Oh yes, that. Okay. I think that would be the thing that would get. I mean, maybe someone would mention that during the wake.
Although, let's be honest, if he dies next session, it's probably will be chasing the Red Rose. So.
It's true.
Yeah, I kind of think that the sort of party boy element of Luke might not make it into the funeral, but like the afterwards, people might sort of be like raising a drink to those aspects of him.
Yeah, I don't feel Luke's done enough yet to really be remembered. He's done okay. He's done a few things, but the other stuff any knight would do. He hasn't really had that moment yet.
That's fair.
Although he was one of the few people in the trial by 7 that
Yeah,
through the last 100 years, so I guess that's there, but
It's,
yeah, it's a pretty big deal to be in a trial by 7. Like like you say, like the first one in what, like 91 years, something like that.
yeah, but I mean, I don't feel he did anything that stood out in that trial. He survived it. He fought okay. So,
yeah,
whatever
and
he's looking for, this war might give him an opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he.
yeah. Unfortunately, probably the thing that people will note for this trial by 7 is the fact that there was a woman in it who killed a man.
Always upstaged by my fucking sisters. You see this shit?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, like first
Like,
time I would have thought in one.
if you think like 100,000 years in the future, that's probably what that trial by 7 will be known for.
Poor Luke, you're the Sokka of the group.
I am the sock of the group. That is fucking true. I can't bend any element. I got a boomerang.
But Sokka learned all four nations like non-bending fighting styles, so he did kill
Yeah,
stuff.
I did like that post. That was cool.
It was super cool. Like it just occurs to me that like
So if we're following that, Luke is the next arc, like dressed up as a Kyoshi warrior, and
I mean, you've certainly at least shown that you're capable of infiltrating an enemy base in disguise.
sure.
Yeah. So I was like with Adam, I think he would like be remembered as like he died too young before he got to really do anything, and I think he would absolutely hate that. Because like he'd be like, yeah, fucking
Full murdered Cletus Ironwood
yeah. I think that would be the one. Like
before getting negged by his cousin.
Yeah, I think he would want to be.
We'll add both.
Both is good. Yeah, I mean he would want to be remembered for being like loyal and just and good and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of think like the fact that he's so young would probably eclipse a lot of the things that he would want remembered, and he would be annoyed at getting killed so young before he got anything done. Really.
Yeah, it's annoying, right? You haven't done your shit yet.
Yeah, just like not done nearly enough. Like I can totally empathize with Luke feeling like he hasn't done enough because that kind of.
Don't let us die, Raina and Bela. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, it's not allowed. So like, does your character have any heroes or inspirational figures, like either ones who are like their living contemporaries or from like in-world history?
Oh, yeah. I think we saw a lot of it when Luke got to talk to like the Blackfish and Barris and Selmy, and there was just a whole group of like these old, wizened, battle-hardened men that he was head over heels for.
That totally. Like the Blackfish was a big one for Adam as well.
And
It'll be like
when I do bump his warfare roll up, it will be partly from, I will flavor it as partly from listening to them.
there's worse people to listen to. And I think Adam's certainly starting to really like oddly because he's younger, but like look up to Edric Dane as like an exemplar of like being what he thinks a good lord should be as well.
Yeah, I can see that. Speaking of Eddards, Ned Stark, what little we know about him, he was very honorable, even though he's not technically a knight. I would say there's appreciation for that. Bringing the sword back to House Dane, that's something Luke would do, and probably because he has role models like that, he grew up hearing stories about.
Totally. Yeah.
Hmm.
What about you, Erica?
That I can imagine that would be a lot harder for Bela, but
I kind of think her role models have kind of like changed a bit throughout her life. Um, so for a long time, it was probably the people she was training with, and probably Uncle Oberyn for a long time was someone she uh, used as a role model. And I think it's a little bit less the case now that he's a role model. Is just like a really beloved uncle. Um, I don't think I know enough about the lore to be able to like. I think she would have some like battle commanders that she would look up to. I can't name them because I don't know enough to like
Okay.
name any. But I imagine like that's the kind of thing she would look up to, like some strategists and such, and how
Makes
they
a lot of
performed in battle. So like,
I would say, just if you're looking for somebody to add in, Queen Nymeria
Oh,
is
hell
probably
yeah.
gonna be like the default any girl we've been doing, or just any woman with martial thoughts would be there.
okay,
Yeah. Queen
She's the one who
Nymeria is
led the
very
Roinar over to Dorne in the first place.
Yeah, she
Okay.
kicks ass.
so it sounds like Felicia's saying that we are now stealing her pig, which is okay. We can have the same people we look
like,
up to.
Arya named her wolf after her, so this is in universe a very common concept.
A little bit like Felicia's annoyed that we've stolen her choice.
Well, we would have learned the same story, so it makes sense that we both could like have role model be looking up to Queen Nymeria for like slightly different reasons too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
There's
makes
also
sense.
the two sister wives of King Aegon who were pretty kick-ass in their own right as well, with Rhaenys
Yeah.
and Rhaella.
They very much had the girls' personalities too, right?
Yeah.
One was more martial inclined and was more.
And there's also like two of our, I think it's like our great grandmothers were the ones who were called Rhaena and Bela as well. They're like on the Valyrian side of things. They're in the family tree. Who I don't know if there's very much written about them, but like they're probably very cool if you got named after them.
Yeah, probably. Felicia also says her other pig is Alyssa Valerian.
All right, okay, that's a cool choice. Like it's a very Rhaena choice. Yeah. Like there was ones that kind of cropped up for me, like that, like I think kind of similar to yourself, Erica, that like Adam's sort of inspirational figures have changed over time, and it's been quite recent that changes happen. Because like and it's been like basically his accident is kind of the sort of turning point, I think, because up till that point he was looking up to a lot of knights mainly, because he thought that's what he was going to be, and then when that kind of changed and that became like not really an option for him, he started to look at people who have found alternate ways to be effective and to be powerful and to be to be influential. So while like he definitely finds something to admire in people like the Blackfish and Sir Garland, who is kind of basically like the ideal knight to him, but then like he's met people like Lord Baelish, who isn't a knight and isn't martial, but has made himself very powerful and influential and is a very capable person in a totally different way through having like a keen mind. So that's the thing that he's kind of shifted his focus to kind of who he looks up to now, and it's people who are a lot more now. It's people who are or cunning and subtle and good at using their heads rather than just kind of straightforward fighters. Though he does tend to kind of get a bit of I think certainly like any knights who are kind of even rumored to like be gay or anything. He kind of gets a little bit of a fanboy thing about them of like, oh, like cool can be like someone can be like me and be like this cool like powerful warrior and stuff like that. So he kind of like there's a lot of people he looks up to.
That's why he likes Lynn.
No. There is more in there, but if we're talking about like I guess like Renly and Sir Loras are probably kind of more wholesome examples of him going, oh, like someone who's like me, who is a cool warrior, and people like give them shit about it in their face, kind of thing.
But is it a psychopath?
No, you know what? Right, I would. I mind whether like do I get into this or not, because I'm not convinced Lynn's a psychopath, but he's definitely a bit of a dick, but I don't think he's necessarily a horrible person. There's a really good Reddit thread that kind of goes into like quote by quote of like how he's not actually.
If you posted it, you can't introduce the topic as subreddit.
I swear it wasn't me that. No, like Rusty's always making fun of me, like now everyone. But because if I say like I think he's misunderstood, I'm gonna sound really wrong. I'm gonna sound silly. And then Rusty goes, "I can change him. I can fix." Like, yeah. If I write enough fan fiction, it'll make it better.
No, I definitely do see the whole like, oh, they can be a knight and like me in such a we're in a society that frowns on anything that isn't heteronormative, right?
Totally, especially because I mean,
like those aren't related. Oh, I get it.
Yeah, and a thing that I like, I think one of the reasons why I actually like out of character, Lynn is a really interesting character for me, is because he's not required to be a nice guy. Like he can be a dick and be like.
It is cool how much he owns his sexuality in a setting that frowns on it.
Yeah.
Whereas Renly and Loras are like, oh, don't tell anybody.
Yeah, and Adam's very like, what if someone knows? And like I think actually he's found kind of something kind of admirable there. He's kind of like, actually I wish I was more like that. So like Lynn is a curiosity for him, and he kind of more, but there's also a lot of social rules. There's a lot of social. I mean, there's all these kind of social rules where you can't just ask questions because that would be rude.
All I can think of is Lynn like Friday going, "Oh fuck your dad." Just like.
And well, I mean, Adam would just say, like, my dad's dead, so good luck. But
I can see how empowering that could be for Adam, especially, right? Just like
because that's a thing with like.
Like I said, unlike Loras and Renly, who try to keep things quiet unsuccessfully, Lynn's just like deal with it.
Yeah.
I'll fucking fight you.
Yeah, and it's a thing that both I and Adam like about him in that, because I kind of think that's
it's admirable. It's admirable in general.
I think it's a lot more honest from a writing perspective to like not have to like make every gay character be perfect, and like certainly just from a kind of narrative point of view, I actually think Lynn is actually in a weird way a kind of good influence on Adam, because it makes Adam stand up for himself a bit more. Just by like, because he taunts him and stuff, and like Adam like clearly Adam doesn't back down from it, and it's like one of the few times where Adam isn't I mean, like, he's terrified of him, but like he won't just kind of take insults. So in a way, Lynn's kind of making him be more confident in a bit of a weird way. I mean, they also clearly want to bang each other, but that's a totally other thing.
We need to get you to your name day first.
It is one reason one of my favorite conversations we've had was Luke and Adam talking about Adam's sexuality, and just being like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was
Let's do
brilliant.
this shit.
Well,
Just because as a Dornish person, it's like, yeah, shit fucking happens.
Yeah.
But also understanding why, like, Lynn is the rarity there, you know.
yeah. These, and it's a really cool thing, and like I think that was a thing, really important conversation to happen between Luke and Adam, because like while like Adam cares about all of his family, like Luke is probably the one sibling that he relates to the most. So having Luke kind of go, it's not a big deal, like was actually kind of helped him relax quite a bit. I mean, he's still quite just personally anxious, but yeah, like now that he knows that he doesn't have to worry about his family accepting him, that's like, well, I say family. Grandpa Maker is an unknown value at the moment, but like knowing that his siblings have got his back is a really big deal.
I still really
Yeah,
enjoyed
and
the.
he does. Go ahead.
I still enjoyed the uncomfortable conversation that was had in that carriage on the way from the Tyrell compound to the Red Keep. That was priceless.
I went back and I transcribed that into because like I sort of I write little snippets of Adam's experience like based on what we do in the sessions, and writing that was so much fun. I've got it like it's all in one of the chapters of Luke and Oris very earnestly trying to like be encouraging to Adam, and Adam just sort of wanting to melt into the floor and disappear forever.
Well, Adam came across as just a boy, a straight boy who was nervous about everything. So the natural solution to that is just to fucking toss him in the deep end.
Yeah, and I mean,
that wasn't his actual issue.
Yeah,
the issue was just that he lives in a society that doesn't really understand him.
Yeah, because I mean, like he'd been growing up in the north, and had definitely been around like other squires who told a lot of homophobic jokes and stuff like that. So he was kind of like, oh right, okay, so this is what it's like. So being back in Dorne is also going to be good for him because like give it a year and he'll be like eating dates from the hands of exquisite like olive skin boys.
Oiled up muscle boys.
Yeah, it would like you and you get oiled up and come to my room in 15 minutes. Yeah, in a year he's going to be like Dorian from Dragon Age. Yeah, so yeah, so, I mean that's been a fun bit of character development. If he could just stop being anxious like in the actual moment, it would be kind of good, because it's when he actually cares that it gets really scary. There is a second part to the question I kind of started with. If your characters existed in the now, is there any you would consider inspirational or heroic?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. Probably a lot. I feel like Luke would have big, like, David Bowie energy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I think Adam would probably like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, that whole rock star lifestyle I think would very much appeal to Luke Harris.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You'd also appreciate maybe famous scientists and people of that nature, engineers who are known for their intelligence or created something. He definitely appreciates that.
Yeah, I think Adam would look up to quite a lot of nerds. Yeah, totally. I could see Raina really admiring Beyonce for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, who does not?
Yeah.
I think that would be like a shared one for Bela too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There'd be a lot of that, I think. In some ways, the siblings being in modern times is even more freeing. In other ways, it's like business as usual. What's going on?
Yeah, it translates well in some ways. Like my Fast and the Furious crossover is going at a glacial pace.
The Fast and
because of that.
Furious AU is a legitimate AU and will be developed.
It will totally happen because we did spend time working out who would drive what kind of vehicle.
Oh shit, what's Lynn gonna drive? Lynn's
Sorry?
gotta be in it, right? Lynn's gotta be like the bad guy, bad boy from out of town.
Yeah.
What's he
Well,
driving?
Well, totally, because I think I nailed it down that like he would drive a black what was it? Yeah, a black Dodge Charger with a red leather interior and skull decals because it's a car for dicks.
I would say whatever the protagonists have, he's doing the like opposite. Like if the protagonists are all Japanese, he's at the European vehicle, or is it the muscle car? I kind of see him as basically like driving something that looks kind of dark and edgy, and it does actually have a lot of like driving power. It's actually a good car, but it does look like it's for Clearly, I will have to consult in this AU a lot.
Yeah, I do intend to consult you because you know way more than I do. And I think they said that Oris probably drives like one of those big cruiser bikes with the huge handlebars.
I can see him on that, but I don't know if I'm going to cross bikes over to our Fast and Furious AU. Oh, God,
possibly not. I think they said that like Willie Will has like an old beat up pickup truck or something.
I'll tell you what Willie Will has. Willie Will has what looks like an old beat-up pickup truck, but actually has like a fucking modern Corvette LS1 dropped into it. That's been supercharged.
You know,
I was like, I don't know. I guess the old truck could kind of keep up, and it's like fucking putting down like 700 horsepower.
Like it.
Mine and Luke's opinion, Willie Will changed a lot when I learned who he was. So
yeah. Well, yeah, because William Darry, so he's a fucking big deal. Yes. Respect. Even though
instant change in my character was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It took me a few moments of like, oh, yes, okay, that's a big thing. So, if your character had time to pick up a new hobby, what would they most like to do?
Music.
Just music.
Just music.
Yeah, like I think we talked about this like the other day about like Adam probably want to take up the lute.
Wow, I can't really see Bela having a hobby. I think it's just like a different fighting style, maybe.
Mixing poisons.
Everyone's gonna have a hobby.
Could work on that axe swing a lot more. Just in case.
Bela's all business.
Bela's hobby is going to the free cities as a
I don't know.
mercenary.
Well, I mean, like, so other than fighting, she would be like riding a horse out, just like looking at the wilderness or something like that. That's like what she would do to like relax and have downtime and such. So like
this is the role that needs like surveyors and shit. You can go out in the wild and survey stuff.
Well, no, see, like I think the horse riding thing is valid because I mean, like Elias, right, like her thing, like is horse riding as well. So I think it's a valid pastime to be riding horses, even if it's also do normally.
The girl could use a shower that isn't horse based, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's baths in Westeros, but yeah, like Rusty has brought it up more than once that she basically smells just because she hangs around them.
She's gonna come to your name day tourney and she's gonna ride our asses off.
Yeah, like and that was the thing I was wondering about. Like, what's the etiquette of like, do you compete in your own tourney? I mean, like, if the king can do it,
yeah, why not do it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, nobody's keeping me away from the archery, that's for sure.
No.
Well, yeah, just like, no way am I going to just sit by and watch other people be awesome. unless I'm given a kind of good reason to do it.
You need to sit in the stands and hold your hand out like this.
Just wait
After
for
all,
something.
both the Hand of Adam and the Damn It wounds are up for winning, I believe.
They are
No.
not.
No.
I heard a rumor.
Oh, it's, fucking Beric Dondarrion! Damn you! That's his fault. He decided that would be funny. Yeah. I still have to come up with something prize-wise. I mean, like, money's kind of obvious. So money is going to be involved, but you need to have stuff for, like, at least one unique thing for the winner of each event, probably. Yeah.
I will say, Dan Atlantis is not terrible, but I would not be the one suggesting Iris Danet's hand as a prize at all.
No, we're not giving away the data lands.
No, definitely not.
Well, like as a banner house, not like you halfies though. But then again, I'm not gonna tell Iris that. She'd kill me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure that she will warm to your charms eventually.
He's not a fan. I'll just tell you that now.
Well, I mean, in the circumstances, it's kind of understandable. Just, like, give her time. Like, it's not like a trash romance novel where she's just going to suddenly forgive you because you're handsome.
First of all, it's something to forgive. I didn't do anything wrong, but also, yeah, you should stay as far with that as possible.
Yeah, I mean, she's had a hard time. Give the girl a break.
I tried.
I mean, more of a break.
I went through a war.
Well, I mean,
what for me?
I mean, I'm certainly going to invite her to the tourney, so I mean, maybe you'll have other opportunities to, like, charm her.
I really am not trying to charm. I understand. I know this seems coming up, but
like, I don't mean this. Like, by charm her, I don't mean like seduce her. I mean like get her to like you.
Well, all my specialty dice are in seduce, so.
Fuck me. Why are you like this?
Because I got abandoned, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, like we said right at the top of the stream, like, you know, you're letting the side down. So, I mean, this is kind of, I don't know how related it is actually, but maybe tangentially, of has your character ever been in love?
I would say yes. I've been playing Luke as he moved to the city, he fell in love with somebody, didn't work out. He probably fell in love again, didn't work out. So, just very much so, like, things move quickly. As far as Luke is concerned, yes. There's no name or anything attached to that, just whatever.
Yeah.
But
I say, like, it's a thing I really like, that Luke's kind of a romantic at heart. It's nice.
yeah, he's definitely is, but also one who feels like he has gone to bat and struck out many times.
Oh.
Those are probably like teenage crushes with, like, I don't know, women he was paying to sleep with, and then they were married. But I'm sure it was dumb like that. But the point is,
See, it's kind of funny because, like, Adam's convinced that he, like, that Luke can seduce anyone, and is just, like, constantly having affairs. Like to him, Luke is just the, like, master seducer, and it's not actually true.
he's got pretty good dice if he really wanted to. But the reality is, Luke is generally not.
Well, I think he's kind of too decent a guy to be for, like, heartless sex hound.
Sex hound, yes. Heartless, no.
Yeah. What about Bela?
No, she's
Heartless
not
or
been in
sex
love
hound?
before. I think the closest would be that horse that she had when she was younger. Sunflower.
Oh, Sunflower.
Poor Sunflower.
Oh.
And so,
That's
so yeah,
That's why she
that
got
tragic
fans
story,
this day.
and so now she gets her wrath from the anger from that that whole thing.
Sorry, that's just making me think about. Remember? Oh, fuck. So Alan Ambrose, the squire who was shouted for Eleanor whenever he was jousting or fighting. Who was like his betrothed. I'm thinking of Bela being like sunflower.
Sunflowers! He charges into combat.
Yeah.
The other horse is like, what the fuck?
Well, Adam thinks that he's in love right now, but I'm not convinced. I'm not sure. For me, for me out of character, it's genuinely I'm not actually sure if he does or not. Because for me, how I would kind of define love is total acceptance of that person as they are, and I'm not convinced that he fully accepts Oris for who he is.
I will say it's not only fine to be kind of sloppy there, but it makes a lot of sense, in character.
Yeah, I think he definitely thinks he loves him, but yeah, he might kind of grow out of that, or he might not. I don't know. And yeah, I certainly think there's an element of kind of he wants to control that relationship a bit, which is not very love-like behaviour, in my sort of out-of-character opinion. So, yeah, and certainly when he was in the immediate wake of being spurned, he was very disdainful of love. But yeah, I think that's also, I think he's got no frame of reference, because this is the first time he's ever felt this strongly about somebody.
By the way, do you as a player think Oris is completely straight, or just not sure about anything yet? Because I would put him down as not sure yet on anything, because he's relatively young.
Right. Yeah. Rusty refuses to tell me.
Well, obviously, right? That's the fun.
Yeah. I personally, out of character, think Oris is straight, so I think Adam is always going to be kind of unrequited in that regard. I'm quite happy. If I turn out to be wrong, then cool. But if not, then he'll learn from it. And I mean, if enough time passes, he will get distracted by someone else, I'm sure.
Lid will show up.
And you know what? Right, okay. Going into headcanon theories again, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. As keeping him. Okay. I think that's a lie.
So for the chat, Rusty in chat is claiming that Lincoln Bray is actually asexual, which could be the case. He is just an edgelord. I do buy that part.
I mean, possibly, but I mean, no one whacks a sword hilt with that much conviction without having some interest, at least.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not here to judge or classify people. I will say this: turns out that way. Maybe you and Cobra can have a romantic thing, and then you just fuck the blue boy.
Possibly. Yeah, I guess because being asexual doesn't necessarily mean you're aromantic. There was another thing I was thinking of. Well, I mean, canonically, there is definitely.
He does like swords. I will say that is canon, though.
Maybe he just really likes swords.
Metaphorically or not metaphorically, he does like swords.
But yeah, anyway, aside from Rusty being a cruel man, I think if that relationship happened once Adam was over the age of 16, I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing, because he would fucking loosen up for a change.
Honestly, there's a lot of good that could come from Adam having a relationship with Lynn.
I think a lot of drama could come out of it. Could be quite fun.
Yeah, well, yes, definitely.
But yeah, he's definitely he's not going to be able to ever come to Dorne to visit or anything. It's it's not going to be that kind of relationship, because he can't really set foot in without someone trying to kill him. Probably.
I will say, don't make me fight Lynn until I get another rank into fighting.
But,
Okay.
like, that's okay. But even if that doesn't happen either, then like there are plenty of other people in the world he can like potentially get involved with. It would be nice.
Everyone needs that X. I think Lynn is going to be your that X.
Oh, that would see. That's the thing. Like, I need to really separate myself, separate like what I want to happen from being open-minded about what is going to.
That X.
Yeah,
You're right, Felicia. That is what I said.
Because like I for sure just like want Lynn to be the hot mistake that Adam keeps making.
I'm glad you do because yeah, everyone has that X.
Yeah, and like I think just part of it has come from me like writing little snippets of fanfic about it, of going, I could write these two bantering for ages because like in my head they play off each other really well, but that's just my personal that's my little beliefy, and it might not happen, but yeah.
Don't worry,
like,
in the past years AU and they race for pinks, we'll make sure it's real emotional.
I'm pretty sure that he's got a heart in there somewhere. I'm determined to dig it up. But yeah, like aside from those, like I mean, those are the kind of two sort of people Adam's sort of obsessed with at the moment. But I'm quite prepared for a healthier relationship outside of those two to form with someone else. I think in the long run I would be happy with. I'm not super tied to who that is.
You told Oberon, right? Like Oberon knows what's up.
Oberon knows that Adam likes Oris. He doesn't.
Okay.
I would be surprised if he knew about Lynn, but I would also not be surprised. Because Adam was not very subtle about it, to be honest.
I said sexuality in general, not specifically the Lynn stuff.
Oh no, yeah, like Oberon knows right. Oberon definitely knows that Adam likes guys. Whether he knows if he likes exclusively, I don't know. And he knows that he's like got a big thing for Oris, but Oberon doesn't know that Adam already made an advance and was rebuffed. So I don't know if knowing that would sort of change his advice, because he was just like, go tell him, and Adam's like, I already did, that did not. And I think also just like having been rejected that one time, he's now like scared to try again.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's also like been a lot of kind of times in between then and now where they've had some genuinely nice little friendship moments, and it's been good to actually build on their actual friendship rather than it just be based on Adam's attraction.
I think if I could give Adam advice, it will be go through his stomach, feed him.
Yeah,
feed that
already started doing that. I think it was before Oberon came in with the letter. Like Adam and Oris had a falling out, basically.
Alright, bread and go feed him 40 donuts.
Yeah. Well, there's been multiple times where I've brought him food and he's just not been there, so Edric has been getting the food instead.
Edric might get mixed messages from this.
I mean, I hope not, because like Adam cares about him very much as a friend, but I'm pretty sure that Edric. Well, we've not really had any indication of Edric's sexuality.
Thousands of dollars if Edric gives the same speech to Adam gave to Oris.
Oh my god. That would be hilarious. And Adam would panic instantly. And he'd be like, well, this is the gods punishing me. I deserve this. But yeah, like, even if that happened, it wouldn't happen for several years. I think because like we don't really because well, Edric is only like 13 or 14, so he's like, well, he's not too young to have that kind of attraction. I think in terms of like in terms of
being closer to Adam's age, I guess I was
No,
viewing.
yeah, he's a couple of years younger than that, so
Although years this, years that, he has rode into combat now, so
I mean, yes, but I think what I mean is more like from Rusty's point of view, like narrating that would be uncomfortable. But I mean, maybe like in a couple of in-game years, like Adam will get his comeuppance and someone will confess love to him that he cannot return. But we'll see what happens. Yeah. So, like, there's a question that like I've really liked in this list that I want to ask. That's like potentially a bit of a potato.
toss it.
Yeah, but I like it also just because it came up a little bit in the conversation with Jonathan. That what does your character think of King Robert, and what was their opinion on King Aerys? Do they think the rebellion was ultimately good or bad?
Oh, this is a very setting deep political question. Who wants to go first?
I mean, I picked it and I have big thoughts about it, so I'm willing to go. Like, Adam doesn't hate King Robert. Adam certainly thinks the Mad King needed to be deposed. He doesn't necessarily think that Targaryen rule should have ended. Like, I think he's maybe more of the opinion that the other Targaryens should have deposed Aerys rather than a totally separate person rebelling.
If I'm not mistaken, there would have been rumors that Rhaegar was planning to do so, right?
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing where like Adam
at least in universe, a few people thought that. Right?
Yeah. So like Adam's very kind of, and part of this comes from him not having that really strong connection to losing his family kind of thing, because he never knew his parents. It's like, yeah, they died because of that, but like that's not a thing that he's actually got direct experience of. So he's not got the same grudges that a lot of people from our family have. So he's kind of, but like kind of intellectually, he's like, yeah, like that guy definitely needed to go, and I'm not going to say anyone, and he's certainly not going to criticize any of. Well, he's not going to criticize anyone in the rebellion for having got rid of it, because he believes that is a good thing. But yeah, like he sees the impact that it had on his family, which he doesn't like. He's certainly not going to pretend that that our family were on the right side, if that makes sense. So he's got a bit of a.
I have a follow-up question for Adam specifically.
Sure.
Given the role Ned Stark played in the actual war, and Adam being under, essentially under the Starks ultimately, what are Adam's views on Ned and the Starks from that point of view?
I think, well, like Adam is kind of big into like Westeros history and stuff, so he knows like a bit of what went on. And also knows a bit of how like the Starks, like they currently have this very honourable reputation, but historically they've not always actually been like that necessarily.
Well, as far as Ned didn't do anything particularly honorable in the combat, obviously, but yet still.
I was getting to it, and I was getting to it in a kind of roundabout way of that, like they are a powerful and influential house who were like big, like, and Ned Stark himself personally was a big player in the rebellion, so they're to be sort of feared and respected. And I think also like Adam's connection to the North is particular to White Harbor rather than Winterfell. So I think kind of the Starks are like, while he knows a bit about them, they're a bit like it's actually like not dissimilar to kind of why like he doesn't personally hate any of the people in the rebellion, because duty is a thing that he values and understands. A thing that he's starting to kind of think about more via his friendship with Edric Dane is the effect that it's had on him, and his family, because like they've got a much closer connection like through Arthur Dane. So,
but really positive for the Starks, right?
Sorry.
The Danes have a weirdly positive view of Ned, though, right?
As far as I'm aware, like they don't have like a vendetta against him or anything like that. So, yeah, I think Adam can see that like reconciliation between those conflicting things. Like he doesn't have any beef with the Starks.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like that was a bit of a surprise question, so like I'll maybe think about it some more and kind of come up with a more coherent view on it.
Yeah, but you're drawing on the Danes is I think pretty valid, because again they have a weirdly positive view of Eddard, despite the fact he essentially killed Sir Arthur Dane.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's also there's. It's actually not dissimilar to kind of stuff that Adam's already doing, because like Adam already holds conflicting views in his head. I mean, like we've talked about Lynn Corbury multiple times, who like killed one of our cousins, who was a Martell and a member of the Kingsguard. He doesn't hate him for that, so because to him that's like that was a war, so it's not a personal thing.
Okay. How about Reyna? I'm sorry. How about Bela?
So Bela views the king as the usurper. He shouldn't be on the throne, and it should be Rhaegar.
This is that inter-family tension that we were waiting for.
I would love to hear your thoughts, Felicia.
I get feel like Felicia and Bela are going to agree.
Yeah, like living in Wyvern's Rest for my entire life, like hearing like the stories and over, like you get that kind of history down here, and there's not really anyone to provide the other viewpoints, so it's kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe the king needed to be deposed, right? Like he was bad and things were going bad, and so like, but that doesn't mean King Robert is the one that gets to be on the throne, and so like there's that grudge that he took it by force when it should have been someone else in that same family instead. So yeah, it is. She took a certain joy in that melee fight where it was her and Reyna and Oris fighting against the king. I got in a couple hits, and
You did?
where things ended off, it really wasn't. We weren't really sure how things were gonna go after that. It could have gone either way.
Yeah, because I definitely think like, because Bela isn't the sort of person to back down in a fight. She's like, very like, and I think like Bela likes to win as well. So I think kind of even with it being the king, like yielding would have been distasteful.
Yeah, she was going to give it the actual fight because, like, one, she didn't want to be disrespectful, right? Like, it would be disrespectful to like pull your punches, so to speak. She wanted to give it her all, but also like this is not a king that she really respects. She doesn't think that he should be there on the throne, and like a legitimate way that she can strike blows on him is like icing on the cake.
Yeah, I mean that's bragging rights that you like fought the king to a standstill.
I will say, one of the biggest like what the fuck moments was when Wooly Will referred to Robert as the usurper.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wait, what? Hold on.
Yeah, I think you'll notice that Adam never. Like, because Adam's like, yeah, like this administration is probably in for run and better alienate myself.
I will say Luke feels similarly in that this is the usurper. The Mad King had problems clearly, but he's probably heard rumors that Rhaegar was planning to depose him when he came back, but never came back. Whether those rumors are truth to or not, he's signed on board. That said, Robert is a distant Targaryen relative through one of the branches of his family. He's not the least legitimate king there could be, but he is still the usurper.
Yeah, like Felicia said, like actually, like I think it's very reasonable that Robert is definitely a usurper, but it's how power swings in Westeros. He beat the Mad King and earned the throne. He is the anointed king, even if he's allowed before. He couldn't rule his way out of a paper bag. If there were a Targaryen for Rhaena to support, then things would get hairy. Yeah.
If there are none. I will also add, and I feel similarly. That's well spoken. Shit, I had a fucking point. I've lost it. I've fucking lost it.
So, like, if say there was some long lost bastard child who got covered up and hidden for a while and did some time in the north and became a big leader and a really elaborate plot, and he somehow came back and was, right there in contention for the throne, but did some like illegal murder on like a crazy lady who brought in dragons. I think I might support the dude for being the rightful king and not banish him off.
Who we knew like would put peasants up against armored knights in a war.
Well,
I'd probably support him.
The thing is, like none of us know that, and it's like how will we know? I mean,
we don't.
It would be great if we found out, but like right now, I don't see us ever finding.
I did completely fucking lose my point. I don't know what it was. It was along the lines of fuck okay. Robert.
That's all right because I think I want to like we've come down to like just a small chunk of questions now. I think we might actually be able to finish the list.
Let's do some questions.
Yeah. So, what is your character's greatest fear?
I have characters who I've given fears to, but I don't know if I've given any to Luke, like actual specific terror or phobias.
I mean, I guess it doesn't need to be a phobia, but like it can be something more kind of existential.
I get shirts. Well, they're itchy.
A fear of shirts.
It would be probably failing his siblings.
That makes sense.
He doesn't really have a big outside fear thing, but that not being able to help in some way probably would boil down to it.
Yeah.
Bela's fear is not having a legacy, not being remembered, and basically being forgotten for history.
That's really interesting. It's like that's
Whose fear?
Bela's.
Who's that?
Oh, damn it.
Oh, you dick. It's actually like I would have thought it would be something like powerlessness, but like that's really interesting that like legacies important to her. That's cool.
I do find it interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah, the other twin.
Actually, like what Rusty said there, like the other twin, like that's made it make a lot of sense. Yeah. I think Adam's like really afraid of not being loved. I think he's like really afraid of like being being alone. Yeah.
Do you want us to make Horus love you?
Well, yeah. I mean, like he definitely prefers to love, but I think it's more general than just that. I think he has this really strong to be liked and loved, and just basically through kind of his upbringing in the north and his interpretation of some of the Seven's teachings, he's kind of convinced himself that there are parts of him that are not lovable. So yeah, I think that's the thing that he's really scared of. Yeah.
All right.
So, what do you think is your character's greatest flaw? I love that Felicia's refusing to.
I think Bela has too much where she wants to jump to proving herself or resolving things through combat of some kind. I think that's what she sees as like her greatest strength, and so she views it as a way to solve problems for her. And so she may not realize it's also a big flaw because because of that in her childhood she's skipped over all that other training on how to run a house, and all that other stuff that she might need at some point. And so she's sort of prepared herself for this other kind of a life, and it's a flaw. So like she kind of like thinks through those lenses a lot.
Yeah, there's an interesting conflict there of like she wants to have her own house and establish herself as her own individual, but like that kind of, but sort of opted out of a lot of the teaching that would help her to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be an interesting learning curve if she ever achieves that.
Yeah, or like she's not the heir right now, but like at some point she's going to be the heir to House Nymerian, and she hasn't processed that like she knows that it's something that's going to happen, but like in like the abstract. But like the day comes when she like hears that she's the heir, it's going to be like a holy shit, what am I going to do about this?
I don't like all this talk about how Grandpa Maker's gonna die. Very negative.
Well, I mean, right now, okay. Well, how long do you think that he will live to see us?
142.
142.
142.
I mean, he's like 80 now.
Yeah, 60 more years. It's fine.
He's going to outlive us all.
Dude, I think you're very, very optimistic. Yeah. I think he's got like, oh God, Rusty.
That's what we have to make some real quick.
He will not be drinking the blood of his grandchildren to stay young. Well, I hope not, anyway.
Yeah, eat it all.
But I would be surprised if we got 2 more arcs out of him. That would be good going if we got 2 more arcs.
2 more arcs. Oh, my sweet summer child.
I said it would be good going. I didn't say that's what I thought would happen.
I think Grandpa Baker is on -2 arcs currently.
Alright, so okay, so you think he's gonna cark it like session? You know what? I'd believe anything, to be honest.
I was sort of expecting it any time, like it.
Yeah.
Whether.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't make it to the name day tourney, to be honest. But if he did, that's cool. But like,
Yeah, that would be stone cold.
He doesn't look good. Like, he's
I would say
deteriorated
any
quite a bit.
GM that runs that kind of game is bad. We should all say about how bad they are.
Okay, well, I mean, like, since we're kind of being suspicious now, like, who does your character trust most? Oh no, wait, shit! Like, I didn't talk about Adam's flaws. Wait, he has none. No, I'm only joking. He is way too egocentric. He thinks the world revolves around him. So
I will
yeah.
also touch briefly on Luke Harris's flaws, particularly women who are in trouble or pretend to be in trouble. Hopefully that will not come up at all. If he has red hair, that also helps.
I want Luke to get in so much trouble with women. But like, I love romantic intrigue.
Listen, the Red Rose deserves to be pirating those ships in the Narrow Sea, whatever she's doing right now.
Like she's the one that got away.
She swam the fuck away. That is impressive.
So right, so since now that we wish to cover that after getting a bit distracted, yeah. So like, who does your character trust the most?
Bela.
Interesting.
Reyna.
Oh, like, I mean, I was.
Are Orsa's Peck's characters? I'm asking for a friend.
Here's the thing, like, actually, like, you know, like, Adam probably doesn't actually trust Doris completely. So, you know, like, that trust has been eroded a little bit. So yeah, I think it's probably Reyna as well, actually, just with her being the kind of the head of the house, and he kind of goes, right, Reyna knows what she's doing. So yeah, he probably trusts her the most to like make good decisions and things like that.
Well, we all answered Reyna. No need to question anybody's individual decisions.
Well, you said Bela.
Hey, you said Bela. Bela appreciates your answer, and we'll remember that.
Is there anything?
Reyna has been very busy going on certain very long rides on top of Sir Beric.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And Bela, on the other hand, has a really sharp spear, so he's average out.
So, is there anything that your character regrets?
Trust Jordan Lucas.
That's very, very valid.
Not wondering why he had a mustache. He was tied up blonde to a railroad track when we met him. Probably should investigate that a little bit more.
Yeah, if Rusty had shown me the picture of them beforehand, I would never trust it. They looked evil. I think a thing that, like, that's a good one, because you've picked that. I'm gonna pick a different thing. That Adam regrets not punching Michael Redford in the face for disrespecting Maya Stone. I think he regrets that he told him off. That, like, in hindsight, he's like, oh, that was a bit weak. I should have just smacked him.
Yeah, Rusty's right. The artwork that was made up for House Lugai were like over the top villainy. These were like old Warner Brothers type cartoon villains. Like,
Yeah.
It would have been obvious that we should not have trusted them if we had seen the artwork.
So stop.
Never. Yeah. They had like the evil doppelganger facial hair and everything.
They literally were wearing the mirror universe uniforms in the picture. So we need to do this up.
Sorry.
They were wearing the uniforms of the mirror universe when they were in the picture. So we need to thing was up.
Oh, I see. So like somewhere there's a universe that's got like good Lucases.
like they're the only good people left. I've worked for Luther and DC. It works for this, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. So does Bela have any regrets so far in life?
Not any that we've.
Or is like life too short for that?
She's probably going YOLO and like snowboarding off a cliff right now.
Yeah.
Regrets are for squares.
She doesn't really regret anything. Like nothing that's happened so far in the game. Definitely, I mean, you could say overlooking Orton Lucas, but like that ended up okay for us. Like we managed it fine. It was a pain in the butt, sure, but it turned out okay. So, yeah, she doesn't regret what she did there, or what happened. She's pretty pleased with things.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you have been instructed twice by Felicia to regret nothing.
No, she can instruct me all she wants, and I still won't regret it.
Yeah, but it turned out all right. So I get that's fair.
Yeah.
So where in the whole world would your character want to visit?
I'm sure somewhere in the Free Cities.
Yeah,
that would be a cool.
I do not recall.
That would be nice to see. I think Bela might like to visit, like the area where the Tyrells live, like the nice like.
The Reach.
Yeah, the Reach area. I think 'cause she hears a lot about like how beautiful it is, and like the hills and the prairies and like those sorts of like nice things. Like she doesn't want to go up where like it's cold, but like she goes somewhere where it's like temperate, but like different than like the sandy mountains.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Like Highgarden is really beautiful. Like the Reach is like one of those it's very lush. That kind of thing.
I think that's something that would appeal to her, just like that it's lush and it would be cool places to ride in those areas.
Yeah, I'm surprised Luke wouldn't want to just like want to go to the arbor, because that's where the wine is. It's all the good wine.
I mean, anywhere in the world though. I mean, he definitely would mind the arbor, but
that's totally fair enough. I think Adam would to go to Bravos.
I don't know, Lice maybe. Yeah, it's hard to say. One of the Free Cities.
Oh, Lice, the place that's famous for all gorgeous women, yeah. and the really deadly poison.
Don't mix them up.
Yeah, definitely don't get them mixed up. But yeah, I think like kind of as a sort of a lover of culture and fashion and stuff, Adam would go for Bravos, because it's basically like it's kind of inspired a bit by Florence. So yeah, like that sounds like his kind of happening place. So if your character was granted a single wish, use it for?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
I mean, assuming that it wouldn't be misinterpreted by the, and turn into
no evil genie.
No evil genies.
Yeah, I would be Prince of the Seven Kingdoms.
What to the Seven Kingdoms? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
I would wish myself to be Prince of the Seven Kingdoms.
Oh wow, okay. Not the king of the Seven Kingdoms.
I mean, I don't want the responsibility yet.
All right, you want all the luxury, but responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah. Totally fair. No judgment.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, I'm thinking. So like, Bela wants like to be remembered and have like a legacy and such. So, it's gonna be something along those lines, like being
Giant statue.
a giant. Yeah, my wish is just to have a giant statue of myself.
You know, we could hold
don't
on.
think
We could
that's-
just do that if we made enough money. We could just
Yeah, I don't
We
think
have, like,
that's it.
we could build like a big Reyna and a big Bela like the Argonath in the Stoneway. Like, with the-
I don't know. There's statue famous and there's pay for your own statue famous. They're not really the same thing.
Okay, fair enough. That is a good point.
I don't think she's vain enough to want like a huge statue of herself. I think she wants like some deed or something,
Yeah,
like a legend about her.
proper history book famous.
Yes.
Makes sense.
So I'm not sure what that would even. I don't think Bela can even envision what that would even be.
That's okay. I don't think it needs to be anything particularly specific, but like the general like wanting to be sort of remembered for all time is a valid wish. I think.
Yeah.
I think Adam would want like that's the thing. Like I think Adam, if someone asked Adam, he would say something very noble and like selfless. But I think deep down he would like want to wish for something selfish.
Well, I don't know, Horus.
I think he would want to like I don't know like read minds or something like that, and then he would regret it as soon as he was given it because realizing that's a terrible thing to wish for.
I have a question. Why is Adam afraid of Robert's question about the ship names?
I'm not afraid of it.
We never did get to it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do it. Let's do it now then. Is it like favorite ship names?
This is just my choose to have you guys come up with ship names and
Right,
me not
okay.
be involved.
Right. Well, I mean, there's been a bunch of them, but like a lot of them, it's like we've kind of experimented with flipping them round because, like, there's some because a lot of them just sound weird, particularly when you've got like similar sounds and syllables and things like that. I think a
Yeah,
common-
I mean, we all understand Balin is silly.
yeah, that one doesn't
Just
quite
B
work,
and B.
unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, like I know that Addis has been tossed around a lot as the Adam Morris.
Addis. Ooh, that's a new one for me.
Or-
Addis.
Is that one's been used like a bunch in the chat, or there's or the other version of it is Autumn, which sounds worse to me. What other ships have we got? Well, we've got I mean like
Raina and Varric.
oh yeah, Raric, I guess.
Rate it.
Yeah, because the other way around doesn't quite work. So yeah, Raric's a good one.
Yeah, like lightning themed. This would just be a combination of names.
Yeah, it kind of it stops being like a mashup name and becomes something completely different. I'm trying to like figure out which way round Lucaris and Miranda would go, but neither of them work. Let's see. So let's see if we can do like Lucaris and Lelia.
Oh no.
Lelia? No. That's Elaris? Yeah. This is
Lucaranda.
the problem we have. That
They're all bad.
all of them are terrible.
Yeah.
There was the people who were shipping Adam and Edric had like Edom and Adric. Not like nobody's ever been able to settle on just one. And like Lynn is a monosyllabic name, so it just definitely doesn't work at all anyway. Because you're just adding a letter basically. Would you consider Bela and Meredith Crane a ship? This is the big questions.
That's
It's okay.
I-
She was the one that like she was joking about. Oh, like let's run away and found a mercenary company together, and her brother's like, yes, yes. Her, you're.
maybe.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if there was anything more to it.
I don't think so,
Oh well.
but you never know.
That mercenary company goes unfounded.
Yeah, like I don't think we have. Like, are there any other ships currently?
I think you named Adam and Dane, so pretty much the best ones, I think.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I can't. It's hard to have a favorite ship name because they all sound weird and not great. And I think for the ones that are to do with Adam in particular, like them are relationships, so like I kind of feel hesitant to like call it like a full-on ship because they're so ambiguous.
That is not the shipping motto.
So is that not? Is that the?
If they so much as look at each other, it's fair game.
Okay, then. Yeah, then I'll probably come up with more because I'll just ship Adam with Loris and Renly at the same time, and we'll just make a three-way mash-up name. So there, take that, Rusty. Yeah. Well, you said I could do anything, so there you go. You asked for it.
I guess I did.
So, which NPC do you most wish was a real person in your actual life?
The one who kept handing us money.
Illyrio Mopatis.
Yes, Illyrio Mopatis. Him.
For me, it's Bessa. Definitely Bessa.
Oh my gosh.
That's second place.
I kind of feel like Illyrio Mopatis wouldn't just like. I think he was giving us money because of because of our in character. I don't think he would give you Robert. I mean, maybe he would actually. He seems like a fun guy.
You don't know. My family came to America when we were deposed from the throne or something. I don't know. You don't know.
That's
The point is.
Sorry, like, it was wrong of me to criticize. I apologize.
The point is, give me money.
Yeah, like Felicia's got like Mopatis as well, so yeah, you're not the only one. What about you, Erica?
Honestly, I don't really know.
Okay.
I will say, Bessa is already NPC in my life. It's called My Grandmother, where I'm trying not to eat too much food.
A quick one, because like I promised my friend I would read the question for me was, how do I adopt Adam? To which I'd say,
How?
You like dangle something like shiny in front of him, and then like once he comes close, you like, I don't know, trap him in a cage or something. I guess.
So a cage with like a fake horse in it.
Yeah, you can lure him with like someone with like a very good-looking man or pretty clothes, and then you just pretty like that's all you really need to do. He's pretty easily bought that way. Yes, and as it says, definitely like pet his like soft hair and like tousle his rosy cheeks or whatever. So where does your character see themselves in 10 years, and how likely do you think it is that they will achieve it?
Alive and low to not.
You think you're planning on dying in 10 years' time?
Wow. Where's your ambition, man?
It's just my realism.
I think Bela will have some sort of plot of lands that's within Nymerian territory, most likely. That she has a nice big estate, keep, castle thing on, and I'd like to dream that it's a nice huge one like some rival's castle that we're occupying, like the Ironwood Castle or something similar. You know, no big
If we're gonna be alive, then I want like serving girls and wine.
And I think there's a reasonable chance that she can achieve that. We lost.
Will she be finding a castle soon?
I love the difference in ambition we each have. Like, Bella wants to be like, oh shit, what's going on here?
Yeah, we lost your video. There we go.
Sorry about that, it just kicked me out again. They're like, Bella's like, I want to be ruling a castle, and Roar's like, I want to die.
I didn't say I want to die. I want to be alive. I said smacked I'll be dead.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I want to be alive.
But now I want a castle and serving girls. I already said that.
So,
or I want my sister to have lots of serving girls she sends to entertain me. If that's what's required.
That's fair enough. Yeah, like that sounds fine. I think Adam's ideal 10 years time is like living his best life as like one of those confirmed bachelors that get that you hear so much about, and not
We confirmed it.
yeah, I guess I mean like the way that like that people talk about like the Blackfish being a famous bachelor kind of thing.
Yes, famously.
Yeah, famously unmarried. Yeah, like that's like Adam wants to be famously unmarried, and making good use of his time that way. Wants to be useful to the house in some way. Wants to be in like some kind of influential position. I don't think he has a very clear idea beyond that. I think it's very unlikely that he'll achieve certainly the first half, because I reckon in the next 10 years he's going to get forced to get married.
You can be the Black Wyvern. It's fine.
Yeah, he does like the idea of that certainly. Though I don't think Rusty would let him run away to Essos without a significant time jump.
You can't leave. You have to stay at one of our many castles we're going to eventually own and have your man servants take care of you.
Yeah, that's the kind of, I guess, the alternate 10 years is, yeah, like maybe he's been forced to get married, but like it's not holding him back from being himself. Like I think that's a really important thing to him, is that like if 10 years have gone by, like he definitely doesn't still want to be living in fear. Yeah, and I think like the being in a more influential position is achievable certainly, especially if it's within the house. And we've got one last question, which is, if your character wasn't nobility, what job do you think they'd be doing?
Murder.
Murder? Do you mean like being a mercenary or something? Or do you mean like murder?
It's hard to say. I do want to add the last question. I think 10 years Luke should preferably have some sort of like partner in crime, some sort of wifey type who he can bounce ideas off of about how to be terrible.
A vulture queen, perhaps?
See, I feel like this vulture queen is maybe spoken for.
Yeah, maybe. Well, but I mean, like, her boyfriend's been shipped up north. You can get in there, man.
Regardless. Ability, probably a sellsword. Like, assuming I'm just like a farmer, probably a sellsword, to be honest. Maybe like a hedge knight. It's hard to say.
I think with his kind of, with his sense of honor, I could see him like working his way up to being a hedge knight, certainly.
He'll be the next Sir Duncan the Tall, except not as tall. Sir Duncan the Regular.
That's pretty cool. What about you, Erica? What do you think Bela would be doing if she wasn't born into a noble house?
It's a little hard to tell.
Stabbing some poor guy.
She would
Well, I mean, that's a
necessarily want to do stuff like that. Maybe a sellsword, but maybe just more mundane and being an attendant to like a stable or whatever. Like,
All right, okay.
just taking care of like horses for nobles.
Yeah, like horses is like definitely a thing I could see Bela doing. Yeah, that would be cool. I had a thought. I'll think about this earlier, and I think like I think Adam would like maybe be like a tailor or something, because he's really into fabrics and fashion and making things beautiful. That's the thing that he digs. Or he might become like a maester maybe.
Nice.
Because he's a nerd.
I can see a maester. I see that.
Yeah, I mean, like in the conversations with Rusty about like kind of what to do with Adam in the future, I've gone like, that he was prepared to run away to become a maester to avoid getting married and stuff like that. And I'm told that that's not going to be necessary, but yeah, like I could definitely see Adam being at home at old time. So yeah, we got through all our questions, and it's a minute
amazing.
past. Go us.
We won.
Yeah.
29 experience points to every player. Don't
Yes.
ask Rusty about it.
Wasn't going to.
Do you want to ask Rusty about what?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Oh.
Good.
Mom's
good
the
plan.
word.
Good plan.
Okay. Oh God. Oh. I look away from the chat for 5 minutes and it gets worrying. Yes, Robert, I'm looking at you.
Don't doubt, though. Just don't.
Oh no, it's okay. I'm not going to.
Hey.
I had fun. I hope you guys had fun. I had fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was
Yeah,
great.
this was a lot of fun. And though that being said, I am really looking forward to getting back to the story in 2 weeks, because yeah, I miss it a lot when we're not doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I hope it's given people some insight into the characters as well. I hope it's been informative.
Yeah.
To we insight into my own characters, so.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I do like kind of asking personal questions about characters, because it makes you think about, like, it kind of fills in the life that they've got when you're not directly looking at them.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's it. So yeah.
Yeah. So
Until next
join us again in 2 weeks, where we will continue. We will pick up from where we left off of getting that king's notice, and we will deal with those ramifications and celebrations and
There should be
everything
a few.
else.
Yeah, I'm sure everything will be fine. Thanks very much for watching and joining in chat, everybody, and everyone stay safe.
Bye.
Take it easy.
Bye bye.